Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom, y'all. Just getting everything ready. Thank you for joining today. Whether you're joining live today, or watching later. Shalom and shalom to you. And we'll get started in about 30 seconds or so. Waiting for a few people that might get on. And make sure I have all my markers. Alright, I think I'm supposed to be reading a few things here. We'll get started soon, y'all. Just making sure I have certain things written down. Leviticus 16. Alright. Just a forewarning, I'm not really sure why on Instagram, for some weird reason, they won't, like when you try to replay some of the videos online, on IG, like you can't rewind or fast forward. It doesn't have that little scroll thing on it at the bottom. So I'm not really sure what that is or what the issue is. But it's a lot easier, obviously, on YouTube. They always have that that bar where you can move it. So just something to look out for. All right. I'm almost ready. Sorry. Let's see. Give me about 20 seconds. I think I'm good. Yeah, I haven't even started yet, to be honest. I literally just got on. Literally just got on, so you're all right. Of course, I want to start on time, but my on time is 30 minutes later, or an hour, because yeah. Let's see here. So Leviticus. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and go ahead and pray in, and if you guys have, so second Baruch. So hopefully you guys have your laptops with you, or iPads, whatever you got, tablets, because you'll have some in writing, and there's 3 books, namely the Revelation or Apocalypse of Zephaniah. We got Testament of Job, and then we have Testament of Elijah, or Apocalypse of Elijah, and we have Testament of Isaac. So those probably you may not have with you, like on hand. So definitely research it. But when we get there, I'll let you guys know what we're about to read. But for right now, I'll go ahead and pray in, and then I'll just go ahead and start. Dear Abahaya, we just thank you just for your love, yet again, and your mercy to be able to be here, to be able to share, and to be able to join together and study and growth, and just wanting to continue to improve in our understanding, continue to gain more knowledge to get closer to you, to be able to ultimately gain more wisdom that is connected to fear and righteousness, that we may be able to walk perfectly in this walk unto you as we continue to strive and move forward in this narrow path towards your return. And we just thank you ultimately just for forgiving us and allowing us to bow down to you, to worship you, to be able to repent and turn away from these things that is not of our walk. That you continue to pull us away from the things that do not pull us away from the things that are not of you, and whether it's in our mind, in our heart, in our actions, whatever it may be, that you're constantly refining our works, and we just thank you for that. We ask that this study and all the other studies that are coming that continues to level us up and allow us to lock in with you and be able to understand how important all these little aspects of our walk, how important every little aspect is, and that we just keep this in the good soil of our hearts. And we just love you, and we ask that you remove any block in our mind and our heart today to receive from you, and we ask that your spirit, your Ruach, continues to dwell in us, speak through me, and be able to be in our mind and our hearts, and we just continue to just love you and thank you for all the things that you're doing. In the name of your Son, we pray. Amen. 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 All right, y'all. So before I start, so I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just on my Instagram, but I noticed that, like, when you try to replay the videos on IG, that you can't use that little scroll thing at the bottom of the video to, like, rewind or fast forward. It was there like 2 weeks ago, but I was checking yesterday because I had to go through my other studies just to kind of look through something, and I couldn't fast forward. So I had to go on YouTube and do it, which was fine. So thankfully, we have the studies on the YouTube, but I'm not really sure why IG didn't allow that. So you guys can check that later on. It's definitely an inconvenience if you're just trying to if you don't have the time to just watch it all the way through. But all the things are on YouTube, especially the more recent ones. If there's a study that you would like to watch and it's not on YouTube, definitely let me know, and then I'll just upload it. Because sometimes I just don't remember to upload everything. And yeah, so I just wanted to let y'all know that. And that's about it. So this study today, so Know Your Enemy Part 4. So I've been holding on to this one for a while. I just never had it fully developed. And thank the Most High, everything is a timing thing with him, obviously. And especially when you're doing something like this where you're sharing or teaching and you're studying, things develop over time, especially your understanding. And so with this specific study, he's allowed me to be able to learn so much more since the very first Know Your Enemy portion, and then obviously till we have now. It's just been a blessing, and then now I'm able to share. So if I would have tried to share this some time ago, it wouldn't have nearly been this developed. And this is actually a foundation, obviously, so something that we should be able to keep in mind and know, as a very foundational piece of our walk. and there's stuff that you will never probably hear in other churches or whatever the case is. Is this a salvation issue? I would say yes, only because of the fact that what you're going to hear in this message, it becomes more. It's a deeper understanding of like literally what's going on in our walk, and we know, obviously, especially in this community, we know keep the commandments, things like that. But now, I think like once we get to the end of this study, it's gonna be like okay, like you kind of know more. Obviously, within spiritual warfare, what you're actually using more of the warfare weapons and etc., which is the next portion of the study, because those portions are going to be individual, and it's going to just take you up to a higher level, obviously in your prayer and different things of warfare. Um, so this whole spiritual warfare series has been giving us like actual platform to say, okay, why are we actually engaging in spiritual warfare? What is it? What are the details? Who is my enemy? And so that's what this study is going to like just give way more details. I think there is going to be one more know your enemy, because this one, after this one, it does get a little bit deeper in the sense of like other portions of like just some other details, that it's just there's no way I can actually put all of that in this study specifically, and it's kind of out of order. So it has to come after. All right. So this one is specifically like, I think you guys will really love it. And I probably say that for every study, but I love it. So I'm sure you guys will too. Yeah, so I've already prayed in, and like I said, you guys can have your laptop out or tablet out or whatever the case is, so that way when we get to these books that you probably don't have on hand, that you can look them up very quickly. And without further ado, let's get this started. Um, all right, so spiritual warfare series. So this is basically the order of how it's been going, right? So sorry, thought I heard the door open. So you have you have the soul ties, the first installment of spiritual warfare series, and that one was literally like setting us up for understanding of what the soul ties are. And obviously, if you grew up, like in 90s, 80s, whatever, growing up, I think either way, I think you just hear soul ties is literally like if you have sexual relations with someone, and whether or not if they're not your husband or your wife or whatever the case is, then you have a soul tie to that person. Typically, that was like the only definition, and then obviously, you can have a soul tie to different things in life, obviously like money or whatever, but typically those were usually the only definitions that you'll usually hear. And for that specific video or study, we broke that open. We laid the foundation down and saw that we have soul ties with demons, basically, and the reason why we are in warfare against them, right? So we get to the second installment of Spiritual Warfare series, where it was about sin. So we broke down more about sin. It was sins of commission and omission, and we talked about this conscious and subconscious mind, how that connected with Scripture. And we didn't go far past a certain point where, people tend to make their own philosophies and things of that nature regarding like a topic like that. But we were able to connect different portions of that. And then we were talking about the types of spirits. So we were talking about the spirit of error, spirit of hatred, just different types of things. And we even talked about demonic possession. And I think it was like possession, and it was attacks. So we talked about the difference between it. And then we also understood that there's levels, right? There's levels to the possessions and levels to the attacks, right? And so then we went into evaluating Saul. So Saul, not the Paul Saul, but the Saul that's in, that was against David, basically. And he was once a king of Israel. So we saw, literally, Saul. We saw Saul, um, and his high point or his low point, in the sense where he was at like a base level. Then he got high in the spirit. Basically, he was given a position, and then he got all the way low, right? And we saw the demonic influences. We saw the spiritual warfare in there. So that was a really good one. And then obviously Soul Ties 2 comes after. And so we talk about the body, soul, and the spirit. One of the main things to keep in mind, especially for today's study, from that study, is that the body and the soul are judged together, right? So if you're judged as unrighteous, your body and your soul go with you into torment, or the place of condemnation. And if you are judged as righteous, your body and your soul go into the place of righteousness, and you're in a waiting period before the Messiah actually returns and puts everything under his feet and gives those who are waiting their heavenly body. Your body and your soul are in that place of righteousness. And then when you receive your heavenly body, then you get a whole new body, right? But your soul and your spirit also, which is the spirit of the Most High, actually, they're like fully connected, and then they fully connect with the new body. So it's like, essentially, you're thinking, this is what we are striving for, is to make sure we are connected with his spirit, with our body and our soul, and our mind and our heart, and we're connecting all of that. And that way, like, we qualify, like, for that new body. That's why he says to worship in spirit and in truth, because he wants the ones that are looking like him. So we're going to kind of cover that a little bit later on in this study too, but that was a big portion of that study for Soul Ties 2. And Soul Ties 3, we talked about the power of reason. Okay, so that one was a very deep one. That's 4th Maccabees. Love that book. Probably top 5 for me now. I don't even know. Top 5. Everything keep going in top 5. So, like top 5.1 or something. I don't know. But that one was really awesome. To be able to see that the wise reasoning, is being able to understand how you can control your emotions, how you can control the way that you think, the way that you process feelings, the way that you process your conscious, like what you're thinking, and those actions that come about it. So, and that one's going to be very key too, obviously, because everything is in order. So then now we're at Know Your Enemy, okay? Note 1.5, and basically we are talking about Matsema, okay? So as you guys saw, or some of you guys probably didn't see it, I put this image right here, and it's about Matsema, okay? So if you ever heard me talk about Matsema before, or if you ever obviously read Enoch and Jubilees, you know a little bit about Matsema, right? And today we're literally going to make sure we make a distinction and really know this enemy, okay? So we're going to talk about Azazel first. We're going to talk about Matsema. We're going to talk about the Mashiach. And then we're going to get like a understanding of like how we leave off from this study, okay? Yeah, so I think that was a pretty good intro. And let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I know this is a little bit small here, but you guys can easily, put the screen to your face or something. I'd rather not, so I don't, have my face all close to the screen. But Azazel, okay, so he is a fallen angel. So one thing about, I know these studies is will reach some people who haven't read Enoch or any apocryphal books. So if you haven't, definitely I would encourage you to start reading apocryphal books after you get like a really good foundation in the regular canon, which is the Genesis through Revelation basically, and typically Old Testament, obviously, read that. Make sure you have some good understanding, and then you start connecting. Different scriptures. You start connecting all types of things. But make sure you pray before you read it, especially if you have some type of hindrance in your heart and your mind why you shouldn't read apocryphal books, right? And make sure that you understand why you're reading apocryphal books. And we say apocrypha because they're quote unquote hidden, right? They're not in the regular Protestant canon. It's called a Protestant canon because you have to look it up. But just a little preview of why they call it a Protestant canon. They had some discrepancies between, the Christians and the Catholics, et cetera, and basically they decided, hey, we're gonna put only these books in a certain canon, which is like a sefer or like a book, and regular Protestant canon is 66. But when you go research some other things, you can even see in the Ethiopian Bible it was 88. These are Bibles or canons that are way older than what we have as, quote unquote regular canon. Okay, so there's going to be 3 apocryphal books that I'm going to read scriptures from. So if you aren't, cognizant of like the apocryphal books, even these scriptures are very foundational. Okay, and this is another thing really quick to also say. Don't get into this path of like trying to find so much esoteric knowledge, which means like you're trying to find all of these little gems where it's like so profound that you don't see anybody speaking on it or whatever the case is, and you're like, man, like nobody knows about this, and then like you put your heart and your mind all into that, right? When you're still searching scripture, we want to make sure we understand the salvation issues. We want to understand why we're actually needing and what we're putting into our heart, right? We want to make sure that we understand like why we're actually reading. You either going to be reading just for knowledge in a way where you're just trying to consume things and you're trying to catch up to the next person, or you're trying to see like, okay, like even like, let's say if it's me, if you think that I got all the answers or I got all this knowledge or whatever, like it's no point to sit there and compare yourself to me, because at the end of the day, I'm here just like you. And I'm learning. Like I love learning in these studies. Like that's a beautiful portion of why I love doing this, is because the Spirit can bring stuff out that I literally have not planned for. And that's awesome. Like I love it. But at the same time, I also know my ordained path, and that's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do. But I still got refining things. I have to refine myself in Him too. So it's it's on the same level, and that we're trying to make sure we're growing. But this is not about me trying to share esoteric knowledge. And make sure you guys just come back and listen to me, because I'm spitting some like stuff that you had never heard before. Don't create no type of itching ears. And if you have itching ears, I'm probably not the best person to follow, because that's not what that's not who I talk to. That's not who I would be around. And typically, like people that I've talked to, like you guys are awesome. Like you guys are literally study. You guys have a desire to study and be in wisdom. Some of you guys, may not know certain things right now, but hopefully, in the coming time, you guys will be able to see like different errors that you may not have noticed. But ultimately, going back to my point, if you're starting out reading the apocryphal books, make sure you pray about it, and make sure you divide scripture with scripture, connect scripture with scripture. Okay. If you've already started reading, obviously, apocryphal books, and you connecting them all, continue to do so, but be careful in falling down into this pit of trying to gain all this like hidden stuff, to where you are so focused on that rather than trying to understand what to add to your walk for the salvation issues, because we're trying to make our election sure. Okay. And it's nothing wrong with finding these little gems, right? Not little gems, but these awesome gems. There's nothing wrong with that. But you guys understand, be careful. Just be careful in what you're actually consuming and what you actually live off of when it comes down to the word. Because ultimately, righteousness, wisdom, and fear are all the foundations we truly need. And everything should flow straight to that. If it doesn't, like, just be careful. Okay. Um, so Azazel is a fallen angel. Okay. You will not really see this at all in the regular canon, and you will find this fallen angel mentioned in First Enoch chapter 8, 1 through 2. And I'll go ahead and just read it. This study is going to be cool. I highly doubt I need to take a restroom break. But hey, I'm not on the stage. We on the IG. I can easily pause. Easily. And you guys can get some Scooby snacks if you want, You guys know always to get snacks, but... So chapter 8, First Enoch. And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth, and the craft of working them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all the kinds of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and became corrupt in all of their ways. So he is mentioned as one of the fallen angels, obviously, that we talked about in one of the studies. And even if you didn't see the studies, this is one of the fallen angels that had relations with men, and you can actually see this in the regular canon. And this is just more detail, obviously. It's more connection to what you see as the fallen angels having relations with women. And then we also talked about that those the offspring that came from them became giants, and then when they died, the giants died, they also became demons. Okay. So this is Azazel. He's literally like the main angel, one of the main angels that spreads so much sin. Okay. Chapter 9, verse 6, he says, "You see what Azazel has done, who has taught all unrighteousness on earth, and revealed the perpetual secrets which were preserved in heaven, which men were striving to learn." Okay. And then when you go to chapter 54 of Enoch, you will see more on Azazel. Chapter 54, 1 through 6, and it says, "And I looked and turned to another part of the earth, and saw a deep valley with burning fire there. And they brought the kings and the mighty, and began to cast them into this deep valley. And there my eyes saw how they made these instruments of theirs, iron chains and immeasurable weight." And so Enoch, just remember, Enoch is looking at these different things. Now, a lot of times you'll see prophets, they'll have visions, right? Enoch was born in a time and alive in a time where a lot of these the things in the spirit realm were very easily seen, in the sense of he was taken up, obviously, into the higher places, but a lot of things were also easily seen, in which we also see that connection also with Israel. When Israel was led by like a pillar of fire, pillar of cloud, things like that, right? And they were able to see different angels, and just the works of the Most High, and the Mashiach, the Messiah, was always there as well. And so in this portion, Enoch is being carried and moved around by the angels and seeing different places and different things, and that's why he's writing to tell us, like, literally what he saw. So going back to chapter 54 and verse 4, it says, "And Enoch asked the messenger of peace who went with me, saying, For whom are these chains being prepared? And he said to me, These are being prepared for the host of Azazel, so that they may take them and cast them into the abyss of complete condemnation. And they will cover their jaws with rough stones, as the Most High has commanded. And Michael and Gabriel and Raphael and Phanuel, these are some of the main angels of the Most High, will take hold of them on that great day," so the great day of judgment, "and cast them on that day into the burning furnace, that the Most High, the Mashiach, the Son, will take vengeance on them for their unrighteousness in becoming subject to Satan." So you guys already see so far, you have Azazel mentioned, and then you have Satan mentioned here. It's not the same person, but we're going to talk about that. And leading those who dwell on the earth astray. And in those days, punishment will come from the Most High, and he will open all the chambers of water which are above the heavens, and of the fountains which are beneath the earth. And all the waters will be joined with the waters. That which is above the heavens is the masculine, and the water which is beneath the earth is the feminine. And they will destroy all who dwell on the earth, and those who dwell under the heavens of the heavens. And when they have recognized their unrighteousness, which they have worked on earth, then by these they will perish. So that latter portion of that chapter, we don't have to break that down too much, but either way, we're seeing that Azazel is cast into the abyss of complete condemnation. Okay, he is literally chained up, and so portion of his meaning of the name Azazel, it means entire removal. And you have to remember, yes, they were fallen angels, but their names also signified things of the Most High. So you'll see that his name also means strength of the Most High. Okay, and also there's some type of meaning also with the she-goat of going away. So the etymology is not fully clear and is a mixture of portions that's giving praise to the Most High in connection to the nature of the sins that he also committed. Okay, so when you go research etymology of Azazel, you're going to see like literally there's 4 different like connections in the etymology, and they're all kind of mixed. All right. But it just gives validity to like literally what happens to him, to this angel and all the other angels who fell away. Like it gives, kind of like that story of what's going on or what has happened. And so in the Sefer, you'll see, and even just right here, you'll see L at the end of it. And people have their own opinions and whatever connections of the word of the L part. But just from a general sense, L just equates to God, and that could be obviously a lowercase g in this sense because there is a lot of L's at the end of a lot of these angels, a lot of all the angels pretty much of their names. So just like Michael, right? The angel, the archangel, you'll see in the Sefer or in other Hebrew written translations, it'll say Michael, okay? So it doesn't mean that Michael, just because the L is at the end of Michael, that now he's connected to Saturn and just different little stuff that people kind of go a little bit off the grid. It does have validity, right? But just from a general sense of what we understand, this fallen angel was obviously connected to the Most High, and he used to do what he was supposed to do. And in Enoch chapter 10. Okay, this is super important, at least for this study. Enoch chapter 10. Enoch chapter 10, and I'm only going to read verse 4. Okay, I'm going to read verse 4 through, I think, through 10. Okay, verse 4 through 10. Enoch chapter 10. It says, and again, the Most High said to Raphael, bind Azazel hand and foot and cast him into the darkness and make an opening in the desert, which is in Dudoel, and cast him therein and place rough and jagged rocks over him and cover him with darkness. And let him abide there forever and cover his face so that he may not see light. And on that day of the great judgment, he will be cast into the fire. And heal the earth. The messengers have corrupted and proclaimed the healing of the earth, that they may heal the plague, and that all the children of men may not perish through all their secret things that the watchers have disclosed and have taught their sons. And the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. To him ascribe all sin. And to Gabriel the Most High said, proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and against the children of fornication, and to destroy the children of the watchers from among them. Send them against one another, that they may destroy each other in battle, for they will not have length of days. And no request that they make of you will be granted to their fathers on their behalf, for they hope to live a continuous life, and that each one of them will live 500 years. And the Most High said to Michael, go bind Simjaza and his associates, who have united themselves with women, as to have defiled themselves with them in all their uncleanness. Okay, so you see Azazel is clearly bound. Okay, just remember that. He's clearly bound, and he has rocks and things like that. There's no light at all. He was clearly bound in the earth. Okay, so he's somewhere around here. This is a really cool thing, and obviously, please, there's no reason to try to go find these their tombs or whatever you want to call it. It's literally no reason. There's nothing you could do about that. It's probably going to be hidden anyway. But it's some research here. Let me make sure I have it. So it's interesting. So it says Raphael. This is some research. So Raphael was instructed to dig a hole in the desert of Dudal, and he was cast in it. And I guess the book of Tobit, it gives a clue basically where the desert of Dudal is located. And this person basically lists exactly these three different things that were in Tobit, and he says that the map that he posted on there was located in probably like the southernmost border of Upper Egypt. And he says the Nabta Playa is the most logical place where Raphael imprisoned Azazel for the following reasons. And he says the date of the circular megalithic structure is old enough to be at the time around Enoch. It's located at Upper Egypt, just like the book of Tobit says. And then the structure of it, it has jagged rocks and all that cool stuff, right? So this is the map that this person posts. And so you see, like, right there, you have Lower Egypt, you have Sinai and over there. So I circled at the bottom where basically somewhere in that area is probably where he's buried. So that's just a little bit of research. And then you guys can always research on YouTube, especially archaeological finds, whether it's in Israel or around Israel, that's connected to the Bible. So biblical findings. And some will actually say that there are certain areas in the desert where it literally looks like a seal. I couldn't find it because I found this probably like 7 years ago or 6 years ago. But it looks like it's like a seal. I don't know if you guys remember. Some of you guys are younger, obviously, but the Ring. You guys remember the Ring movie where it had like a seal, like they created like this little seal that was cut in the grass or something like that. But basically, there are literal seals looking like that on the ground, where it looks like there's something buried underneath it, and so that could be where all the other fallen angels are, because they were in different places. So it is very interesting, very, very interesting, to kind of, find some type of connection with that. But going back to Azazel here. All right, so it says in Enoch 10, that the Most High is ascribing all sin to Azazel. Okay, so when you get to Leviticus chapter 16, all right, this is about the scapegoat. Okay, Leviticus chapter 16, and we're only going to read verse 7 through 11. Okay, the scapegoat. All right, so there's different sacrifices. I really encourage you guys to look up all the different, the different styles of sacrifice that the Most High wanted them to do, whether it was peace offering and, it was a lot. So this one is actually talking about the atonement portion. So when you get to verse 7, it says, he shall take the 2 goats and let them stand before the Most High at the door of the tent of appointment. And Aaron shall cast lots for the 2 goats, one lot for the Most High, and the other lot for Azazel. And Aaron shall bring the goat on which the lot for the Most High fell, and shall prepare it as a sin offering. But the goat on which the lot for Azazel fell is caused to stand alive before the Most High, to make atonement upon it, to send it into the wilderness to Azazel. To send it to the wilderness to Azazel. And it literally says in the scriptures, send it into the wilderness to Azazel. And Aaron shall bring the bull of the sin offering, which is for himself, and make atonement for himself and for his house, and shall slay the bull as a sin offering, which is for himself. Right? So this chapter is talking about atonement. Right? So we know that Azazel is ascribed all sin. We know that he is bound in the place of condemnation, and he is essentially literally like this scapegoat right here that is put, all their sins are put on this scapegoat, and the scapegoat goes into the wilderness. Okay, there's a lot of symbology there, and it's very simple, right? Simplicity in the Most High. We have to be able to find these things and be able to divide it correctly so we can easily remember and be able to have that understanding. So simple. Azazel is ascribed all sin. Azazel is connected to the scapegoat. A scapegoat is connected to sin. And when it's in the wilderness also symbolizes like the place of condemnation, or it symbolizes like like there's no light. There's no full there's no fruitfulness, there's no anything. So essentially, when you also think about the Messiah going into the wilderness right after he gets baptized, and he goes there for 40 days and 40 nights, and the Satan tries to tempt him, and Mashiach he destroys that easy temptation, those easy temptations. Like that was already a foreshadow of what he was going to do later, and obviously die and rise again from the belly of Sheol. So it's just some awesome connections there. But ultimately what we're seeing here is that Azazel is not who we call Satan. Okay? It is super clear, and just making sure that you guys can see that this enemy Azazel is not Satan. All right? This is a fallen angel that was ascribed all sin, and because of the fact that he taught so much. He taught so much to men, especially during that time, that you still literally see the effects of it today, which pretty much all the fallen angels, different things that they taught, still things that we can see today. And so let's see some things about Azazel in media. Okay, so Marvel. Azazel is one of the characters in Marvel, believe it or not. Made sure I put that right there, that Marvel. Make sure you guys see that. That's literally on the website. So Azazel is one of the characters in Marvel, and he's connected to hell. It's crazy, because you guys have to remember too, like they will take a lot of these things from a lot of these books because they know. So one of the biography of it is that Azazel is basically like the leader of the Nephilim, so which means Nephilim or fallen angels, excuse me, and claims that the earth and everything on it belongs to him. Yeah, so you guys see, literally they have a whole storyline for it. If you're a big comic fan, especially Marvel and DC, like you guys will start to see how much things they took from Enoch, and they even have an angel. I don't know. I don't know if his name is Michael. I think it's Gabriel, actually, from X-Men. So Azazel is mentioned in Marvel. It's just, and Matsema is mentioned, Beelzebub, and it's funny. This is the funny thing about this. This is why we study and why we, understand, because like I told you guys, Azazel is not who we call Satan. But in Marvel, his other aliases is Beelzebub or Satan, etc. Matsema, you see there, Gadriel. So you see, Jules. So that's another thing. That's probably going to be something later too. Probably going to be actually in the name study I'm going to end up doing. But yeah, the Third Enoch is very interesting for sure. And people kind of dismiss that book as well, and you got to divide it correctly. But that's later. But that's an awesome note right there. But yeah, you see, Azazel is mixed in like he's the main one that we've called Satan, and that's not the case. This is another movie. Exactly, sister. Yep, Lord of the Flies, Beelzebub. So this is the thing. One of my brothers put me on to this movie. Uh, Child of the Book. Yeah, I know some of you guys don't really put your name out there, so that's totally fine. You guys know my name is Rob or Robbie. But Child of the Book, he put me on to this movie. And this movie is called Fallen. So you guys see right there at the top this angel, and basically, guess who's the star angel? Fallen angel. It's Azazel. I would encourage you guys to watch this movie, and I'll give you a very quick summary. There you are, bro. And so me and him, we talk about movies all the time, and because a lot of times like people in this walk, like you don't have to get so like cooped up and like so like I'm perfect. You know what I'm saying? Like it's okay to watch certain movies for research purposes and talk about it and laugh, share some funny videos. It's okay. So me and him, we do that. So I appreciate you, bro. But for this movie, Fallen, so basically Denzel, and I forgot his name, whatever his character's name, but he's the character and he's a cop, right? So there's a guy that is a very notorious criminal, okay? Notorious criminal. Yeah, Fallen is a movie. He's a notorious criminal, and this dude, basically, he starts speaking some Hebrew or some Aramaic, basically, and he says something that Denzel doesn't know. So then, basically, they execute the main criminal, and so later on, everything should be good, and then all of a sudden, the way that this main criminal that they executed, the way that he actually executes, that he was executing people, it starts showing up again. So Denzel is like, what's going on? What? How is that possible for this same stuff? Maybe he has like a prodigy or whatever. So some weird stuff just starts happening for him as time moves on, and basically Azazel is going to be the fallen angel that he's quote unquote battling with. And I'm going to show you guys some things because I'm not going to tell you guys the whole movie, obviously, but this fallen angel, he's obviously out in public, and he basically what happened was he went from the main criminal, and who Azazel was supposedly inhabiting his body, and this fallen angel jumps into different bodies or into different into animals. And when you first watch, I mean, it's going to be a really good movie for you guys to watch, and it's like, what the heck? Because you have to realize these people out here that are not of the Most High, they know things because we go back to the fallen angels. They have shared various amount of mysteries, even though the Most High said a lot of that was vain. But they've shared a lot of things, okay? So when you see these movies and you see like all these titles of the movies, you see like they're putting all these demons on the movies, like this stuff is because they know a lot. And you have literally people that will say, well, the Apocrypha is not correct or not of Scripture. But then you got all these other people out here, not of the Most High, knowing that there is Scripture. Like, So basically, Azazel is hopping from body to body into animals or whatever. And, yeah, he's the main angel. So you guys go watch that after. You probably going to watch it after this. But, yeah, he's there. Azazel is literally there. Crazy good movie. Very well put together, but it's also very revealing. And I'm gonna refer back to him and to that movie, some things that were in the movie later on. But this is also some of you guys may have heard the movie, the show Supernatural. Okay, so Supernatural, where do you think they're getting a lot of their material from? They're for sure not getting it from just the regular canon. So there's a demon called Azazel, and he's a yellow-eyed demon, supposedly one of the princes of hell, and it says the prince of hell commanded the demons and kept order in hell. So it says Azazel planned to bring his army black-eyed demons forth from hell to unleash upon the world in preparation for the apocalypse. So this is the synopsis of who he is in the show Supernatural. You don't have to watch that. That's not even like a show that's like super revealing. I mean, Wikipedia, you can even literally just look it up and read certain things about it, but they got some stuff in there that's just obvious where they got it from. And of course, they twist it for entertainment, right? So it says later on at the bottom, Azazel became integral in Lucifer's plans to escape from his prison. Oh, so Azazel isn't Lucifer. Yeah. So they're not the same. Azazel kept faith in Lucifer even after his fellow princes of hell gave up on his return and continued to search for him, blah, blah, blah. And he also created these special children. So I have a screenshot on like who these special children are. Special children is a name used by fandom to describe those children who, like Sam, which is one of the main characters, were chosen by Azazel to lead the demon army for the apocalypse. They're all visited in the 6th month birthday by Azazel, of course, and all develop some form of psychic power. And so at the bottom, last sentence, it says that the demon drips demon blood into baby Sam's mouth, whose eyes flash yellow. And let me show, I think I have one more screenshot specifically on this. Oh, no, not yet. Don't look, y'all. I'm just kidding. So basically how these children, special children, were given powers because Azazel literally drips demon blood from his mouth into these babies that he chooses, and then they grow up, and obviously one of their markers of who they belong to is that their eyes flash yellow. So this is legit in media, like, and I don't think he probably, Azazel probably comes up here and there on certain things, but it's definitely not on the same level as who we call Satan. Okay, so just a summary, like I told you guys, Azazel is not Satan, and he has his certain portions of it, and you guys can connect different things like that, but I just wanted to make sure we know who our enemy is. Okay, he uses one of the enemies, fallen angels, that was out there, who taught men a whole bunch of stuff, and to him literally is ascribed all sin. So who is Satan? Okay, so Satan and Matsema. All right, I've shared some stuff before, but either way, Matsema, you get this name. You do not find this name nearly as out there in the regular canon. You can only find it in the Apocrypha. Okay, you will see Satan a lot in the regular canon because it's giving, just like the Most High has different names. The Father and the Son has different names that describe their character or personify their character. Obviously, Satan, the main enemy, and even some of the demons, they'll have different names that describe who they are. So we're doing a side-by-side comparison here, okay? Just to show you, Satan and Matsema are literally the same person, or same entity, or fallen angel, however you want to say it, okay? So in Genesis 3:14 through 15, I'm going to read that very quick. Genesis chapter 3. So Azazel was locked up away, however, the spirit of his children are not right. So in a sense, he still has influence. So we have to remember, because at the end of the day, like knowing spiritual warfare, like we're not going to essentially like think, okay, who is this demon? In a sense, yes. So that's what the next part of this know your enemy is about. But at the same time, just like we don't worship angels and try to call on them, it's the same thing for demons, right? We don't need to know their name or know, whatever, but what we have to know, like the attacks and things of that nature, the nature of the battle, right? So with Azazel, he is locked up. And you notice there's no light for him. Okay, so there's no light for him. He's put underneath the dirt, underneath these jagged rocks. And so I mentioned this earlier. It's going to show up in our study. And remind me, Apocalypse of Abraham. I forgot to put that on here, but basically, and I don't think I even have to. I'll read it. I'll read it a little bit. But basically, Azazel, he has power to jump on different bodies and jump into different beasts, right? Just like demons would have it, have the same initial powers as well that you see in the regular canon, where they jumped into those pigs, right? When the Messiah was like, like they were like, saw the Messiah, and they said like, please, like don't just like let us not go anywhere, like just don't cast us out and just let us just be free. Like they want a host, right? So the Messiah cast them out and they ran down to the pigs, and the pigs ran into the water and all that stuff. So the influence that he left is still here, right? The influence that he left is still here. I'm going to, let me make sure, because I don't know if I don't think I skipped anything. Because there is a portion about this. No, that's coming up right now. That's coming up right now. So I'll show you. So yeah, so his influence has already been complete. His specific influence, where he's literally like out and moving around, has already been complete. The way that they put it in movies is not always going to be accurate, obviously, right? It's they're going to twist certain things, or and make it seem like this specific fallen angel is out and do whatever. They'll always twist something, but we can always go back and divide it correctly, right? So Azazel, his influence is done. And you'll also notice that when you go read in Enoch the luminaries, there's certain angels where it talks about lead the different seasons and things like that, and it actually lists two angels. One of the angels is actually one of the fallen that don't have influence anymore, and it actually mentions it. So, and that was one of the angels. Like I think that was connected to the angels in the summer that you'll see, but they don't have influence. Certainly, obviously, the fallen angels, they don't have influence anymore, but what they left has been spread over the course of time. So when you talk about the demons that are left here, that's what you're thinking about as well, that they also have taken from fallen angels, and they do what they do, which we're going to talk about right now. Okay? So Genesis chapter 3, 14 through 15. Genesis chapter 3, 14 through 15. So it says, and the Most High said to the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed more than all livestock, and more than every beast of the field. And that was a good question, sister. On your belly you are to go and eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed, and he shall crush your head, and you shall crush his heel. Okay? So when you're reading this, literally you have 14. 14 is going to tell you he's talking to the serpent. 15, he's talking to the one behind the serpent. Okay? You can see it a lot more clear now, because usually people will say, well, the serpent is the devil and he was cast to the field, whatever. Like, you could break that down and obviously know, Sheol, you could say Sheol, the place of condemnation, but this is specifically to the serpent in 1, and then in 15 you'll see literally to who we call Satan, or Hasatan, or Matsema. Okay? So Enoch chapter 69, okay? Enoch chapter 69. And this might be blowing some of your minds, but it's just fire. It's for us to be able to divide it correctly, right? There's always going to be some things that we have to learn and relearn and connect and reconnect. So chapter 69, you will see I'm seeing here. Gadriel. Okay, so verse 6. It says, and the third was named Gadriel. So this is one of the the so basically it lists from verse 1 to 2 is going to list the chiefs of the messengers, okay? Um and it's going to say that basically all the ones which is included, which Azazel is included. So he was one of the chiefs, okay, of the messengers of the fallen angels. So there were some main chiefs, right, who fell away, and then under them there were some angels that fell away, okay? And it says that one of the names of it, when you go to verse 6, one of the names of those messengers that were under the chiefs of the fallen angels, his name was Gadriel. And it says, it is he who showed the children of men all the blows of death, and he led Eve astray, and showed the shield and the coat of mail and the sword for battle and all the weapons of death to the children of men, that they have proceeded from his hand against those who dwell on the earth from that day and forevermore. So you notice, you'll see that the fallen angels, they all have things in common. They're all teaching different things, and this fallen angel also connects to Azazel, which obviously you see because Azazel taught men how to, make weapons and all types of stuff, but this fallen angel does too. And it specifically says he led Eve astray, okay? And then it says in verse 17, let's see here. In verse 12, verse 12. It says, and the fifth was named Casdeja. This is he who showed the children of men all the wicked striking of the spirits and demons, and the striking of the embryo in the womb that it may pass away, and the striking of the soul by the bites of the serpent, and the striking which befalls through the noontide heat, the son of the serpent named Tobiah. Okay? So this another angel, he's connected to the serpent, that led Eve astray, that led Adam and Eve astray, right? So when you get to, let's see here, Enoch chapter 20, okay? So follow me here, Enoch chapter 20. It says here, verse 7, it says, Gabriel, one of the holy messengers who was over paradise, and the serpents and the cherubim, okay? So the serpents is mentioned yet again, okay? And so this is going off of what we already saw in Genesis verse 14, where literally one curse is to the serpent and one curse is to, obviously, whoever was behind the serpent. So we're going to read a little bit of life of Adam and Eve. This is the Greek version. This is the Greek translation, okay? Please, if you have time, if you love to study, you love to find other information and connecting it together, definitely go read it. Go read it. So this is the Greek version translation. If I can find it, it is. All right. And so we're going to read 14 through 19. So it's not like big chapters at all. But I'm going to give you like literally the breakdown, okay, of what happens in this situation where Eve is tempted. Okay, so chapter 14 of the Greek version of life of Adam and Eve. It says, thus spoke the messenger and departed from them, and Seth and Eve came to the hut where Adam was laid. And Adam says to Eve, Eve, what have you worked in us? You have brought on us great wrath, which is death. And he says to her, call all our children and our children's children, and tell them the manner of our transgression. Then Eve says to them, hear, all my children and children's children, I will relate to you how the enemy deceived us. It befell that we were guarding paradise, each of us the portion allotted to us from the Most High. Now I guarded in my lot the west and the south, but the devil went to Adam's lot where the male creatures were. For the Most High divided the creatures, and all the males he gave to your father, and all the females he gave to me. So you can connect that with Jubilees. I believe it should be in chapter 2 or chapter 3, where Adam and Eve had different portions of what they were supposed to be guarding. Okay. and that's how he divided it. And typically, he obviously gave Eve the females, and he gave Adam the males. Chapter 16. It says, "And the devil spoke to the serpent, okay, saying, Rise up, come to me, and I will tell you a word whereby you may have profit. And he arose and came to him." So this can easily show that the serpent was walking on two legs. I don't know if you guys ever seen Monsters Inc. You guys remember that? Remember the main character that was on Monsters Inc. That was the evil one, the antagonist. Let me find his picture real quick. He looked literally like a serpent, but he was able to walk. What did I say, you guys? Monsters Inc. I think his name is Sarf. Well, no, what the heck? Okay, here it is. Oh, Randall. Sarah, sister. So let me just go ahead and show this. So yeah, you guys see it right here on this screen. You see Randall. It looks like he's like a serpent, but he can walk. You see his legs and all of that, arms. So it's not by accident they put that in there, of course. So going back to chapter 16, it says literally once the devil, Satan, Matsema, actually spoke to him, he came to him. So let's continue. It says that the devil says to him, "I hear that you are wiser than all of the beasts, and I have come to counsel you. Why do you eat of the Adam's tares and not of paradise?" So he's putting this thought in his head. Why are you eating trash? Why are you eating trash that's not what Adam's eating, basically, and not of paradise? He says, "Rise up, and we will cause him to be cast out of paradise, even as we were cast out through him." Even as we were cast out through him. Got some envy and some jealousy and some anger going on. But let's continue. The serpent says to him, "I fear lest the Most High be angry with me." The devil says to him, "Do not fear, only be my vessel, and I will speak through your mouth words to deceive him." So we see here as clear as day, the serpent is used, this beast is used from Satan to be able to do what he did into the garden. But let's continue. It says, "And instantly he hung himself from the wall of paradise, and when the messengers ascended to worship the Most High, then Satan appeared in the form of a messenger and sang hymns like the messengers. And I bent over the wall, and I saw him like a messenger." So this is Eve talking. He says, "But he says to me, 'Are you Eve?' And I said to him, 'I am.' He said, 'What are you doing in paradise?' And I said to him, 'The Most High set us up to guard and to eat of it.' The devil answered through the mouth of the serpent, 'You do well, but you do not eat of every plant.' And I said, 'Yes, we eat of all, save only one, which is in the midst of paradise, concerning which the Most High charged us not to eat of it. He said to us, on that day which you eat of it, you will die the death.'" Chapter 18 says, "Then the serpent says to me, 'May the Most High live, but I am grieved on your account, for I would not have you ignorant. But arise, come here, listen to me, and eat, and mind the value of that tree.'" See all this talk? Like, this is the serpent. This is the enemy, the adversary, Matsema, Satan, behind the serpent. And you remember, the serpent is wise. So the way that he's speaking, it's perfectly connected together because of their sly tongue. But let's continue. It says, "But I said to him," this is Eve saying, "I fear lest the Most High will be angry with me, as he told us. And he says to me, 'Do not fear, for as soon as you eat of it, you too will be as of the Father and the Son, and that you will know good and evil.' But the Father perceived this, that you would be like him, so he envied you and said, 'You will not eat of it. You will not eat of it. No, give heed to the plant, and you will see its great glory.' And Eve says, 'Yet I fear to take of the fruit.' And he says to me, 'Come here, and I will give it to you. Follow me.'" Chapter 19, it says, and I opened to him, and he walked a little way and turned and said to me, I have changed my mind, and I will not give you to eat until you swear to me to give also to your husband. And I said, what sort of oath will I swear to you? Yet what I know I say to you, by the throne of the master and by the cherubim of the tree of life. This is Satan said. No, I'm sorry, you guys. This is what Eve is saying. So it says, what sort of oath will I swear to you? Yet what I know I say to you, by the throne of the master and by the cherubim and the tree of life, I will also give to my husband to eat. So she just makes this oath, just like that. And when he had received the oath from me, he went and poured on the fruit the poison of his wickedness. He poured on the fruit the poison of his wickedness. So what does that remind you guys of? Please tell me what that reminds you guys of. It's not by accident that's in the movie. We grew up with this movie. Please, somebody write it. Which is lust. It's Snow White, y'all. Snow White. Poured on the fruit the poison of his wickedness. As clear as day. Crazy. Continuing, which is lust, the root of the beginning of every sin. And he bent the branch on the earth, and I took of the fruit and I ate. So I was saying Snow White, the movie Snow White. Remember when the witch, she pours basically poison on that fruit, on the apple? They always equate the apple. Eve ate an apple, right? Adam and Eve ate an apple. They always equate that. But literally it says here, it was a poison of wickedness. And it says, which is lust, the root of the beginning of every sin. And he bent the branch on the earth, and I took of the fruit and I ate. Chapter 20, it says, in that very hour my eyes were open, and immediately I knew that I was bare of the righteousness with which I was clothed. I had been clothed on. And I wept and said, why have you done this to me, and that you have deprived me of the glory which was I was clothed? But I also wept about the oath which I had sworn. But he descended from the tree, and he vanished. He just did his work, and he vanished. And I began to seek in my nakedness in my part for leaves to hide my shame, but I found none, as I soon had eaten, and the leaves showered down from all the trees in my part, except for the fig tree only. But I took leaves from it and made for myself a girdle, and it was from the very same plant of which I had eaten. So, just crazy, man. It's just the detail you're reading here is just awesome. And you see Satan just gonna run away after he did that work because he already knew who was coming. So going back to why we're connecting the serpent, I'm going to read a little bit from the first book of Adam and Eve, the Slavonic version. Okay, so you can find this on the sacredtext.com if you don't have it on hand. Okay. And I'm going to read just 6 through 8. Okay. So this is connecting to the serpent and the Matsema, the story of the garden. So it says, but the Most High looked upon them, for they had killed themselves through great grief, but he would raise them and comfort them. He therefore sent his word, the Messiah, unto them, that they should stand and be raised forthwith. And the Messiah said unto them, Adam and Eve, you transgressed of your own free will until you came out of the garden which I placed you. Of your own free will you have transgressed through your desire, the lust for divinity, greatness, and an exalted state, such as I have, so that I deprived you of the bright nature in which you then were, and I made you come out of the garden to this land rough and full of trouble. So doesn't that also connect also with Azazel, that is ascribed all sin when he's literally under rough and jagged rocks? Okay. Verse 6, if only you had not transgressed my commandment and had kept my law, and had not eaten of the fruit of the tree near which I told you not to come. And there were fruit trees in the garden better than that. But the wicked Satan, who continued not in his first estate, please keep that in mind, his first estate, nor kept his faith, in whom was no good intent towards me, and who through I had created him, He set me at naught and sought the Godhead so that I hurled him down from heaven. He it is who made the tree appear pleasant in your eyes until you ate of it by hearkening to him. Thus you have transgressed my commandment, and therefore I have brought you upon all these sorrows. For I am the Creator. When I have created my creatures, did not intend to destroy them, but after they had sorely roused my anger, I punished them with grievous plagues until they repent. But if on the contrary they still continue to harden in their transgression, they shall be under a curse forever. Crazy. Just wild. So yeah, Sarah, Genesis says he put on fig leaves, so it says it was a fig tree. Yeah, in the Greek version right there, translation, it says that the leaves fell, but it was the fig tree leaves didn't fall to where you can imagine like she was pulling from the fig tree. I mean, that's all that symbolism in there. Man. So it's interesting that the Most High gives them the clothing of the animal he chose, right? And I guess we could, it probably could have been a lamb. I can't remember exactly if it was a lamb, but he gave them those garments to be covered by instead of the fig tree. So it's interesting when you read in Jasher that those garments were blessed because obviously they were coming from Eden, right? From the holy place. And then later on down the line, they were passed down to Enoch, and Noah actually has those garments. And then those garments, Noah was initially going to give them to Shem, because this is probably going to be a study later, it's for sure. But those were also symbolism of the priesthood, those garments. So, what's his name? Ham actually steals the garments of Adam and Eve, and then he ends up passing them down to where Nimrod actually gets the garments, and then you see where it says Nimrod became a great hunter. Nimrod at some point was good in the Most High, then he turned. So those garments gave life. It gave it was symbolic of like literally holiness in the Most High. So then when you go further down to where you look at John the Baptist, you look at Elijah and Elisha, like they wore these priestly garments of sheepskin, of literally symbolic of what was in the Garden of Eden. It's some crazy connections. So then obviously you see the ephod, right? The ephod is those priestly garments, and then has 12 tribes of Israel. So it's so many beautiful connections. And the pomegranate is on the ephod. So it's some awesome connections. Just like you said right there, the fig tree only had leaves and no fruit, literally. So it's so much symbolism. It's so connected. Like it's like you just like if you spend a whole day trying to connect things, like you probably be like it's overwhelmed in a good way. But going back to our connection with Satan and Matsema, so Satan literally was the main one, but he's behind the serpent. Okay, and so when we see literally that there's Gadriel who was teaching men like the strokes of the serpent, and then there's just connections. It's just connections with some other things really quick. But for the main portion of Satan, it says like in Luke 22:3 and John 13:27, it says that Satan enters into Judas. Okay, so in the regular canon, you're gonna get some connections obviously with Satan. He's gonna look like he's like the only one, when he's literally the main adversary. That's what Satan typically means, adversary. So going back to Matsema, the etymology is H4895. And it's a feminine noun, and it means enmity, hatred, animosity, destruction, persecution. So you notice in verse 15 of Genesis, it says that he's going to put enmity between Eve's seed and the serpent's seed. And that was obviously direct connection. We read the Targum Jonathan before. The pretty much the only scriptures I read from there, if I have to pull it up, is that chapter where it says that if Eve's seed follows the commandments and walks in his footsteps, then they will strike the serpent's heel. But if they don't, the serpent will strike their heel. And that there will be a remedy, a medicine for, the serpent's going after Adam and Eve, which is literally the Messiah. It's the Son. So you see, Matsema, he's literally creating enmity, hatred. He has animosity. He wants to destroy. Okay? And so this Matsema word is also from sotet. So this is so crazy. Sotet. It means to pierce, to flog, to scourge, to whip. Okay? So I'm going to read from Isaiah 52. Isaiah 52. And this is literally, y'all, I'm setting up the foundation still. Yeah, we haven't even got to the mind-blowing stuff. I haven't even got to the mind-blowing stuff yet. Let me drink a little bit of coffee. Y'all still with me here? Okay, so Matsema is from the word sotet, which means to pierce, to flog, to scourge, to whip. So we're going to find some connections here. Okay? And then we're going to read right now Isaiah 52. This was already prophesied about what the Mashiach was going to go through. Okay? We're going to start at verse 13. It says, "See, my servant shall work wisely. He shall be exalted and lifted up very high. As many were astonished at you, so the disfigurement beyond any man's and his form beyond the sons of man. He shall likewise startle many nations. Sovereigns shut their mouths at him. For what had not been recounted to them, they shall see. And what they had not heard, they shall understand." So it's setting up for who Isaiah is talking about. Verse 1 of chapter 53, it says, "Who has believed our report, and to him who was the arm of the Father revealed? For he grew up before him as a tender plant and as a root out of dry ground. He has no form or splendor that we should look upon him, nor appearance that we should desire him. Despised and rejected by man, a man of pains and knowing sickness, and as one from whom the face is hidden, being despised, we did not consider him. Truly, he has borne our sicknesses and carried our pains, yet we reckoned him smitten, stricken by the Father, and afflicted. He was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our crookednesses." So remember, just really quick, we're talking about Matsema right now, right? And literally his name, initial name Matsema, that's listed in the Apocrypha, means enmity, hatred, animosity, destruction, and persecution. And what comes from his name is another word named sotet, and it means to pierce, to flog, to scourge, to whip. And we're reading right here that obviously he was involved with the piercing of the Messiah. Verse 5, "But he was pierced for our transgressions, and he was crushed for our crookednesses. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. We all, like sheep, went astray. Each one of us has turned to his own way, and the Father has laid on him the crookedness of all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, but he did not open his mouth. He was led as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, but he did not open his mouth. He was taken from prison and from judgment, and as for his generation, who considered that he shall be cut off from the land of the living. For the transgression of my people he was stricken. He was appointed a burial site with the wrong, and with the rich at his death, because he had done no violence, but nor deceit was in his mouth. But the Father was pleased to crush him. He laid sickness on him. Then when he made himself an offering for guilt, he would see a seed. He would prolong his days, and the pleasure of the Father prosper in his hand. He would see the result of the suffering of his life and be satisfied. Through his knowledge, my righteous servant makes many righteous, and he bears their crookednesses. Therefore I give him a portion among the great, and he divides the spoil with the strong, because he poured out his being unto death, and he was counted with the transgressors, and he bore the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors. You got so fire. That was from Isaiah 52, verse. What I read you guys from? Verse 13 to the end of chapter 53. Right there, verbatim prophesied what the Mashiach was going to go through, and that whole relation and things of that nature that comes from it. But what we're getting from this is, to stay on topic of Matsema, that he was obviously involved. You go to chapter 16 of Matthew. Go to chapter 16 of Matthew. And we got here verse 20 through 23. It says, Messiah, he warned his taught ones that they should say to no one that he is Yahshua the Messiah, or Yahushua Messiah, however you use his name in the sense of Yahushua, Yeshaya, etc. Verse 21, from that time, Yeshua Messiah began to show to his taught ones that it was necessary for him to go to Jerusalem and to suffer much from the elders and chief priests and scribes, and to be killed, and to be raised again the third day. And Peter took him, or Kepha took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, be kind to yourself, master. This shall not be to you. Now watch this. He says, but he turned and said to Peter, get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me, for your thoughts are not those of the Father, but those of men. So, verse 24, then the Messiah says to his taught ones, if anyone wishes to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his stake and follow me. So, literally, Messiah rebuked Satan behind Peter in this moment that was trying to speak through Peter and say something as such. Like, no, you don't have to be killed. Like denying the prophecy, essentially. So you're seeing a lot more of Matsema's nature, right? You see it in, obviously, what we already read with the serpent, and why he actually spoke with the serpent, because the serpent was very wise and different than all the other beasts. And then you see that he's cunning. He's talking in ways where he's trying to tempt and stray away, right? And then Jubilees chapter 10, verse 8 through 9, we see more of the word Matsema, or his name Matsema, okay? And you guys, please, like we always talk about, use all of this. Use all of this, reread it, re-research, reconnect, connect more, divide it even greater. So Jubilees chapter 10, 8 through 9. It says, and the chief of the spirits, okay, so these are the chief of the spirits, Matsema, came and said to the Most High Creator, let some of them remain before me, and let them listen to my voice. So he's talking about the demons, okay? So in this chapter, you're going to see that Noah was praying to the Most High, and that he was praying that basically that he knows that the Most High has dominion over the spirits, the demons, who were basically trying to destroy men. Because you got to remember Noah, and he had all his other people that came with him, and so he's praying for his sons, and so he's like, please, I know you have dominion over these spirits. And he says before, in verse 6, he says, do not let them have power over my sons of the righteous. And he says in verse 7, the messenger who wrote Jubilees, he says the Most High told them to bind all of these demons that Noah is praying about. So then Matsema hurries up and jumps on the scene. And so he's asking the Father, he says, let some of the spirits that you're about to bind come before me, and let them listen to my voice and do all that I will say to them. For if some of them are not left to me, I will not be able to execute the power of my will on the sons of men. For these are for corruption. So these spirits are for corruption and leading astray before my judgment. For great is the wickedness of the sons of men. And the Father says, let the 10th part of them remain before him, and let 9 parts descend into the place of condemnation. Okay? So if you never read that before, it may be crazy. Like, what? But Matsema, he didn't even have rule over these demons. You notice when he did what he did in the garden, he went to a beast, to a serpent. He didn't, and all the other spirits, he obviously had some type of influence, but you see that Azazel, he was ascribed all sin. You see that all these other fallen angels had different portions, and they were also chiefs over different messengers, right? So Matsema wasn't like the highest chief in a sense, but you see here, he's literally the chief of the spirits of the demons. And he was given 1/10 of the demons to basically control. So he was actually giving a job, essentially, that he was asking for, because you guys see in the garden that he was always trying to come after Adam and Eve. He was trying to come after man. So his goal is to execute power over his will on the sons of men by corrupting and leading astray. And this is it's something very key. It's something very key, because his first estate. Okay, we saw that before, where he's talking about his first estate. What was Satan supposed to be doing? And we call him. They've kind of mistakenly called him Lucifer. And that's not really his. That was not really his old name before he sinned. Lucifer, when you go look up the etymology of it, it means like it's like hello, Lao, and it's also connected to the helical rising, that of a star, basically, and that star would be considered rising like right before the sunset, I believe, or right as the sunset is. It's both portions, but right as the sun is setting, you'll see like a star, right? And that's what they would usually call like a helical rising or a helical setting or something like that. Egypt really was like really into that a lot, and that's what they base like their calendar off of and things like that. It's some very interesting stuff, but that's what literally Halelel or helical, that's where the word Lucifer actually comes from, which means like day star rising. So his name wasn't Lucifer before he was, before he was cast out. But it was like a portion of like what his job was. He was one of the leaders of the messengers of, how the orbits works and things of that nature. And so what else? Let's see here. Ezekiel chapter 28. So his old job. So in this chapter, he's talking to a prince or a king that's mighty at this time. And of course, Satan is literally behind him. Okay. So when you read this chapter, it's just like the same structure you see in Genesis chapter 3, where he curses the serpent and he curses Satan behind the serpent. Right? So in the same chapter you see here, he's cursing, and the Most High is literally warning and telling this king what's going to happen to him. And then he starts talking to the Satan behind this king. Okay, so verse 11, it says, the word of the Most High came to me, saying, which is Ezekiel is saying, Son of man, take up lamentation for the sovereign of Tazor, and you shall say to him, Thus said the master of the Most High, you were sealing up a pattern complete in wisdom and perfect in loveliness. So he's describing who Matsema was in heaven. He says, you were in Eden, the garden of the Father. Every precious stone was your covering, the ruby, topaz, the diamond, beryl, shoham, jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and emerald, and gold. The workmanship of your settings and mountings was prepared for you on the day you were created. You were the anointed cherub that covered, and I placed you, and you were on a set-apart mountain of the Father, of the Mashiach. You walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created until unrighteousness was found in you. By the greatness of your trade, you become filled with violence within, and you sinned. So I thrust you from the mountain of the Father, and I destroyed you, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Your heart was lifted up because of your loveliness, and you corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. So it's constantly saying how he looked. He was so prideful in how he was created. And it says, and I threw you to the earth, and I laid you before sovereigns to look at you. You profaned your set-apart places by your many crookednesses, by the unrighteousness of your trading. Therefore I brought forth fire from your midst, and it has devoured you, and I turned you to ashes upon the earth before the eyes of all who see you. All who knew you among the peoples were astonished at you. Waste you shall be and cease to be forever. Okay? So, Hasatan, Satan, Matsema, he used to be a covering cherub. Okay? So when we logically look at this, if his name means enmity, hatred, animosity, destruction, also piercing, flogging, and then we know that the Most High put enmity between him and Eve's seed, especially for those who are going to follow in his commandments. He put enmity, which is literally the Messiah. You literally see that Satan had a portion of his old job was to cover man, was to cover the Most High's creation, was to cover different things, was to like literally take care of it, right? So then you see Adam and Eve. What were they given? They were giving the authority to, and the job to take care of the Most High's things, Eden specifically, and of the beast, right? So Matsema sees this, and he's like, are you serious? Like, you literally creating something else outside of me, who you created me as perfect, but these people that you're going to create are going to get my job, but they're also supposed to be higher than me. So Matsema is corrupted by his own thoughts of his own beauty, of his own way, and he wants everything that the Father has. And so literally he projects that same thought, that same error onto Eve. And she falls for it. And he makes her have an oath to give to her husband, and the rest is history. Okay? So it's just something super foundational to be able to know who this fallen angel is, who this enemy is. And that's just who he is. You guys have any questions so far? Because now it's about to really get interesting here. It's really about to get interesting here. And that was literally like just a breakdown. And so initially, this is also what Matsema, let me see here. This is his job. This is who he is. He's an accuser, shapeshifter, puppeteering, environment shifter, prince of the power of the air, destroyer, jealous, envious. These are things that you'll find in Scripture that you'll see. The shapeshifting, you'll see it like in Jasher and some stuff I'm going to read soon. environment shifter. Like it's so much stuff that you'll read to see like, okay, this is literally Matsema. And obviously the demons that he's controlling. He's only controlling 1/10 of it, but we can't put a number and say how many it is. It's that's 1/10 could truly be like a million. All right. You just never know, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, we know that we do all of this through the Son. Our knowledge, the power that we get, the binding. But this is who he is. Okay. So let me see here. Okay. Let me get some coffee here. All right, so this is the awesome portion. We're literally going to take off from here. This is obviously a heavy study in the sense of just the understanding and things like that. So obviously take your time. If you rewatch it, break it up into different parts, right? So Matsema, we're talking about him, right? So this is the thing. This is a court case. Okay? Greater is he that is in me than he that is in the exactly, sister. Beautiful. Beautiful. And we're gonna get to the Messiah because it's amazing. So we're talking about this court case. And I'm sorry, this is the wrong one. Because it's supposed to be court case Mankind versus Matsema. Okay? Mankind versus Matsema. You guys know when you look up court cases, it's kind of written like that with the italics and all that cool stuff. So this is the court case. Your court case is between you and Matsema. If you never thought about it like that, you're going to see why. Okay? So I'm not super well versed with accuser and a prosecutor and things like that goes on into law. But we're going to read some things that is like super telling that goes on with, that happens in court. So, and how court is actually set up and how like the trial and things like that. So let me make sure I can find these screenshots. So let's see here. So it says a criminal case is a type of court, it's already cut off, basically which the defendant is tried for, basically for something that considers to be illegal according to the state's legislature or government. Criminal cases generally begin after the person is arrested and informed of their charges, usually at a hearing known as an indictment. In regards to criminal cases, the defendant is always considered innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt by a state prosecutor. Most criminal cases are tried by a judge in the presence of a jury and may result in sentences under criminal law. Such sentences could include jail time as well as fines. So the difference in this is the defendant is always considered innocent until proven guilty. We are already guilty. When we're born into this life, we're all born into sin. We're already guilty. Okay, so we already got a court case going. Okay, so let's look at some more aspects of this court situation that we're in. And it's not going to be like fully in order here, so I'm just going to just show you guys my slides. So being charged with a crime merely means that the government has formally accused a person of a crime. A person charged with a crime is, by law, innocent. This is by man's law, innocent. Being convicted of a crime means that the person has pled guilty or has been found guilty after trial. A person convicted of a crime is, by law, guilty. Okay, so you guys see the difference with man's law. This is crazy because if you really think about it, especially when you think about an atheist, right? Like majority of the portions of those who are going to be against the Most High, especially in a certain mindset, like especially like an atheist, they don't think they're born into sin. They don't think they're guilty. right? There's no true meekness. Like, we know who come to him and understand this walk that we are dust. Like, we know these things, right? So we know that we were born into sin and we're guilty, and we know who cleaned us up, right? And this is why this is so important. When you think about this court case that we have between us and Matsema, because he knows we're guilty. He knows he's guilty. But his guilt and his literally conviction has already been settled. Ours hasn't been until our judgments are obviously finalized. So let's continue to see some more aspects of this court case. This is so fire. Let's see here. Oh my gosh. Please. Let's not do this, IG. Please. I'm begging you. Alright. Let's see some more here. Oh, there you are. So, and this is different portions. You guys go read this yourself. An indictment is an outcome of a grand jury proceeding and is as written accusation where the jury accuses you of committing a crime. By contrast, a charge refers to the instance when a prosecutor brings criminal charges and accuses you of an offense. Who is the prosecutor? Matsema. Who is he trying to bring charges against? You. Both an indictment and a charge have a similar result in that criminal charges are filed against you and a criminal case begins. When did he start this criminal? When did Matsema start his criminal case or this case against you? As soon as you were born. Even before that, in the womb. In the womb. Matsema also knows, this is a part of the next series or the next portion of Know Your Enemy. But just a preview, demons know and they hear things that's going on in the heavenly realm. And so, especially for anointed cherubim that used to be a cherubim, somebody like Matsema knows who's going to be born or who's in the womb, especially on earth, because he's the prince of the earth right now. So whoever's coming into it, he obviously knows, and that's why he knew that the Messiah was coming. That's why he knew where to find him, and why he tried to destroy him and kill him, tried to kill Moses. So he knows he's already starting this court case against you in the womb. In the womb. That's how much he's of a persecutor and an accuser, is that he starts that early. And so we're already born into sin. That's what his goal was in the beginning. Like, he's not, the intelligence on a level that the fallen angels had and, the demons, it's heavenly. It's not how, we can't set stuff up. No matter how smart people are on earth, you're talking about a divine understanding, in that he has this Matsema has this divine understanding to try to destroy us. His whole plan was to destroy us, and this is how he sets it up. It's crazy. So, it says that, note, a grand juror is a legal proceeding where a group of jurors convene to decide if there is sufficient evidence to charge or indict you of a crime. If the jury does indict you, a case will be filed against you in the criminal justice system. A grand jury indictment is merely a charge. It is not a criminal conviction. Okay, so just some things to notice. What we're taking from this is a charge refers to an instance when a prosecutor, Matsema, brings against a criminal, us, and accuses us of an offense. Okay? Let's find some more connections here. If a prosecutor charges you with a crime, most jurisdictions require the lawyer to file a related charging document with the court, often called a complaint. A complaint describes the charges filed against you and sets forth the factual basis for them. what you think this accuser is doing. And just to show you, just real quick to blow your mind too. It's not gonna blow your mind, but who is the intercessor? Mashiach. Note that a prosecutor can file charges for both felony and misdemeanor cases. The result of a criminal charge is such similar to the result of an indictment. Both initiate a criminal case against you, and your case will advance toward a jury trial if no settlement is reached. Just some language, obviously, that's there for the way that man has set up things. But what we're taking from this is that the prosecutor, Matsema, has also filed a complaint against you. It's so crazy, like, to be able to learn these things. Let's see. Oh, I think we already read this part. So let's see here. Yeah, I think that was pretty much it on the conviction thing. But there is a portion. So a character letter. I don't think you guys have ever heard of a character letter before. And maybe you have. I can't find the screenshot on here. So it's all good. I'll just go back to the main screenshot. And I want you guys to actually look it up. So a character letter basically is something that the defendant, so we're the defendants, something that the defendant writes, and basically the defendant needs other people to be able to chime in on the character letter to verify that this defendant is who he or she says he is. He or she says she is. He or she. And so if you write on your character letter who you are, right, there's going to be people who are going to verify it. So essentially, when we're looking back in our works, right, your works verify also who you are, what your character entails. And so this character letter is literally like one of the main things that can also help a criminal escape or not escape. Character letter is one of the main things that can also help a criminal not be indicted or convicted of a crime. And that's not in all cases, especially when they already have all the evidence, et cetera, but there's a portion where there's a character letter and the judge actually considers this character letter, and it could be obviously used as weighing in the balances, right? And so guess who your lawyer is? Mashiach Yasha. Okay? And guess if anything you're going to write on this character letter should look like, guess whose character it should look like? The Mashiach. Because who are you giving this character letter to? The Father. So if he wants to see anybody's character and see what it should match up to, it's going to be his son. Right? So I'm going to read to you guys some things from the Revelation of Zephaniah. You probably never have read this book before, but it's out there. Revelation of Zephaniah. You're probably like, what? What? But yes. Revelation of Zephaniah. All right. If you have your laptop or whatever, you can pull that up. But if not, I'm not going to read everything from it. I'm going to read very key pieces. Very key pieces. Okay? That's going to connect with what we're talking about with this court case. And so a lot of times, a lot of what he's looking at in this revelation that he's seen a vision. And it says that he was taken up from the fifth heaven. So I'm giving you guys a synopsis of and just reading through different portions. But he's taken up into the fifth heaven, and he sees that he basically sees a lot of hell, He sees what he's also calling Hades. Okay. Um, yes, exactly, sister. Yes, that's why the fallen angels gave Enoch their petition so that he could give it to the Father and plead for them. Exactly. Enoch was a symbolism. He was connected, obviously, directly to the Mashiach, but Enoch was another form of the character of the Messiah. Just as Abraham, just as Noah, etc. You're going to see in this revelation of Zephaniah, but that's perfect connection. So it says that I'm just reading, obviously, like I told you guys, little portions of the revelation of Zephaniah, and it's connected to here. Okay, so it says that be strong, O who will triumph and prevail, so that you will triumph over the accuser, and you will come up from Hades. Okay, triumphed over the accuser, and you will come up from Hades. So you need to be strong. Okay. And so Zephaniah sees a soul in Hades, and it says that this is a soul which was found in its lawlessness, and before it attained to converting, it was visited and taken out of its body. Yes, you heard that right. It says that basically the mercy was all gone before this person tried to convert truly to the Most High and to His ways. But before they could even get there, the soul was taken out of its body. It was too late. Oh man. Woo! Zephaniah is seeing these things in Hades. Okay, that didn't like shake you a little bit. It's like, man. So let's read some more stuff. So then Zephaniah sees some more stuff. It says basically darkness does not exist in the place where the righteous are and the saints are, but they will always exist in the light. Okay, so that's why when you think about how the moons, how it is, like it says here already. It literally says, earlier we talked about you'll come up from Hades. We're born into sin. We're born into basically darkness. That's why we're coming out of the womb, right? We're in the dark. And it says that the Messiah literally was in the womb of Sheol when he was dead, right? He came out of it, right? So it's so many connections that we've been drawing, especially if you go watch that Fruit of the Womb study. And it's going to continue, but that study was very connected to, obviously, how the luminaries and how we're looking at the moon. It starts out in a dark state. And this is a luminary study that's coming. So just for you to have a little bit of understanding even before it, if you don't know already, that dark state of the moon starts on the 30th day, before like the first day of the moon. And then that's why when you see that sliver, basically, it's the Most High pouring light into the moon, right? So you are connected to really seeing that how the Most High is pouring light into the moon, pouring light into us. And essentially, literally, as we see it written here, that he's pouring that light into us, and he says that darkness does not exist in the place where the righteous is. So when you see that full moon, in Enoch, it does also say that it does get overfilled of light every single month. So like in 14 days, usually it'll be full moon, and then that 15th day is fully full. And then as it's going down, it's losing the light because there's no more light that can be put into it. So it's going to be renewed every single month. Okay, so that's just a preview for you to also take. So you see here, no darkness will exist where the righteous are. So let's continue. So later on it says, Zephaniah sees some more messengers. And he says, these are the messengers of the Most High. They write down all the good deeds of the righteous on their scrolls as they watch at the gate of heaven. And I take them from their hands and I bring them up from the Most High. This is what this angel who is guiding Zephaniah is saying. This is what his job is. And he gives it to the Most High and the Mashiach, and he writes their name in the scroll of the living. Now watch this. Also, the messengers of the accuser who is on the earth, they also write down all the sins of men on their scrolls. They also sit at the gate of heaven. They tell the accuser, and he writes them on his scroll so that he might accuse them when they come out of the world and go down there. This court case, you guys. Remember, we talked about like there's a jury there. So you literally, you have the jury sitting there at the gate of heaven where we're trying to make it into and be with the Mashiach and the Father. So you got on one hand, you see the good deeds, your character letter being written and given to the Mashiach, and he's writing the ones that have a good character letter and that are, following in his footsteps on the scroll of the living. But then you have the other jury, who are the ones that are accusing, who are literally there at the gate of heaven, writing down the sins of men. It's not even finished, y'all. I still have more to read. Accuser of you, they give their accusations and your sins, the things that the accuser needs to prove that you are guilty in this court case. They give it to the accuser. The accuser writes it on his scroll like, yeah, okay, cool, I got it. I got it on Jules. I got it on Rob. I got it on Penelope. I got it on... I got this. Think about how many scrolls he has kept in his place where he is. Obviously, he's all in the earth. Because remember, when in the book of Job, the Most High says, hey, where have you been? Because at that specific time when the angels were presenting their things to the Most High, basically, Satan had a portion where he was able to do that. And basically, he accusing. He says basically that he's been going to and fro on the earth. So then the Messiah or the Father says, have you considered my servant Job? And then, so obviously, Matsema is there to be able to accuse Job and say, I guarantee you this. And this is a specific time he's able to do this. He can't do that anymore, and we're going to talk about why later, okay? So, but he comes with his accusations. So he has messengers that are giving him these accusations against us. So, when we're in lawlessness, we're giving him so much more to write and accuse us of. When we're in Torah and in his instruction and his wisdom and his counsel and all these things that are connected to righteous works, we have things that will be used against his accusations. Because we all got a judgment. We all have a court case. So let's continue. Revelation of Zephaniah. It says that later on. So this is crazy. So he talks about what he sees also in this specific moment. He says, and again I turned back and walked, and I saw a great sea, and I thought that it was a sea of water, and I discovered that it was entirely a sea of flame, like a slime which cast forth much flame, whose waves burn sulfur and bitumen. They began to approach me. Then I thought that the Most High had come to visit me. When I saw, I fell on my face before him in order that I might worship him. I was very much afraid, and I entreated him that he might save me from this distress. And I cried out, Elohim, Adonai of hosts, I implore you to save me from this distress that has befallen me. In that same instant I stood up, and I saw a great messenger before me. His hair was spread out like that of a lioness's. His teeth were outside his mouth like a bear. His hair was spread out like women's. His body was like the serpent's when he wished to swallow me. When I saw him, I was afraid of him, so that all the parts of my body were loosened, and I fell on my face. I was unable to stand, and I prayed before the Most High. You will save me from this distress. You are the one who saved Israel from the hand of the Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. You saved Susanna from the hand of the elders of injustice. You saved the three holy men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, from the furnace of burning fire. I beg you to save me from this distress. Then I arose and stood, and I saw a great messenger standing before me, with his face shining like the rays of the sun in his glory, since his face is like that which is perfected in his glory. And he was girded as if a golden girdle was on his breast, and his feet were like bronze, which is melted in a fire. Y'all know who that is. And when I saw him, I rejoiced, for I thought that the Most High had come visit me, and I fell on my face and I worshipped him. And he said to me, take heed, do not worship me. Do not worship me. I am not the Mashiach, but I am the great messenger Uriel, who is over the abyss in Hades, the one in which all of the souls are imprisoned from the end of the flood, which came on the earth until this day. So we do know there is a description of the Mashiach that is very similar to this, but you're seeing another angel that looks very similar to him. And it says, Uriel says, and the Zephaniah says, I inquired of this messenger, what is the place to which I have come? And he said to me, it is Hades. Then I asked, who is the great messenger who stands before me? Basically, that looked like that lioness. Uriel says, this is the one who accuses men in the presence of the Most High. So why do you think the scriptures say Satan, Matsema, prowls around like a lion waiting to devour? Because that's what he looks like. He looks dark, looks like a lioness, looks like a serpent. He doesn't look like obviously what he used to look like in his first estate. But this is not just the only description of what people look like, in the visions that they've seen him look like. But he can turn himself into an angel of light. So why do you think Paul says, how many times, or don't you know that Matsema, Satan, can present himself as an angel of light? The angel has similar description. Is it because they are the son? Yes. So, but remember, sister, there are different angels that are going to look totally different, right? So, Uriel is one of the main angels. So there's rankings, and this specifically just talks about what Uriel looks like. So there's massive amount of different angels that obviously, have different positions and things like that. One thing I always think about is like the angel of frost that it talks about in Enoch, that it says like the way he looks is just ridiculous. So it's just, just things to just think about. Like, when you're reading, not every angel is going to look the same, but this angel, Uriel, looks literally like very similar to the Mashiach. And we just know if he looked like this and his face was shining like the rays of the sun, like Mashiach, oh my gosh, like, man. And yes, very good. So Messiah is a lion as well, describes the line of Judah. So you see, Matsema wants to be Messiah so bad. He wants to be the Father, so he wants everything, right? But his body, he looks like a lion waiting to devour the sons of men. Looks very dark. The line of Judah, who the Mashiach is a total different type of lion. And you guys can even see that nowadays from just what you see, especially there's like an account, I don't know, this I guess he's in India, he's very rich or whatever. He has a lion that's massive. And the lion looks very like just drugged out. He looks very, yes, God said drugged out. That's what he looks like. His face is all messed up, but the lion doesn't destroy this person. Like, he has him on a chain or whatever, but he's in the house. So like the lion is just chilling and like a pet, but it doesn't look like what a beautiful lion, like a massive lion, like a massive and like a real straight up king of the jungle looks like. That's who our Mashiach is. Sister Sarah says Scar and Mufasa. Exactly, bro. Like you see little things there. Oh my goodness. Oh, okay. Yes. So the Revelation of Zephaniah. Okay. So let's continue. We're still talking about this court case, y'all. So It gets deeper. Zephaniah sees, he says, and then I looked and I saw him with the scroll in his hand. He began to unroll it. Now, after he had spread it out, I read it in my own language. I found that all my sins which I had done were written in it. Those which I had done from my youth until this day. They were all written on that scroll of mine without there being a false word in them. Pay attention, please, y'all. Please pay attention to this. Because we are growing in fear, righteousness, and wisdom that connects to all these things that we're doing with all works. So please pay attention to this. I found, it said, a scroll of mine which there were no false word in them. If I did not go to visit a sick man or a widow, I found it written down as a shortcoming on my manuscript. If I did not visit an orphan, it was found written down as a shortcoming on my scroll. A day on which I did not fast or pray in the time of prayer, I found written down as a failing on my scroll. And a day when I did not turn to the sons of Israel, since it is a shortcoming, I found it written down on my scroll. So that I threw myself on my face and I prayed before the Most High. It is an ouch. When I first read it, I was like, oh. Okay, so Zephaniah says, I threw myself on my face and I prayed before the Most High. May your mercy reach me, and may you wipe out my scroll, because your mercy has come to be in every place and has filled every place. Then I arose and I stood, and I saw a great messenger before me, saying to me, Triumph, prevail, because you have prevailed and have triumphed over the accuser. And you have come up from Hades and the abyss. You have come from a dark place, and you will now cross over the crossing place. Okay, so there in this fragment specifically, it doesn't continue. It's like a missing piece, because there was another scroll that was written, and then he was getting ready to read it, but it doesn't say what it was. But what we're reading from this is literally like the things on the scroll, right, that the accuser is going to use. We have to truly understand what this mercy is. Truly understand what this mercy is. Remember that, Sarah. Hebrew. Remember that. That's coming up. His mercy. So we look back in this court case, we see who our lawyer is. We see who literally the judge is. You guys, the court case is set up for us to actually succeed in our favor. So the condition to win the case is already written. So the ones who don't want to do what's necessary to make sure that they win the case, it's justified that they are convicted as a criminal. But the ones who live out the condition of this walk to follow in the Mashiach's ways, in his instructions to not be a criminal, they are justified and are justified as righteous. When you see it saying Abraham's faith was justified as righteousness, this is what it's talking about. His work was justified as righteous. So that way, the accuser who doesn't want Abraham, because remember in Jasher, he was also trying to destroy Abraham. He was trying to kill Abraham. So why do you think Mashiach also says, I formed you in the womb. I know who you are. And he says in Jubilees, those who depart from their ordained path, there's judgment waiting for them, because he's already aligned you with where you're supposed to go. And because of his mercy, he knows that you still can win this case, because he has destroyed the accuser, and he's already ready to destroy the accuser in every case that he's built. So everybody is on the same level when they get to this case because there's no partiality between the father, the judge, and the lawyer, Mashiach. So if you do wrong and this is how your scroll and the case that's against you, if you allow the accuser to indict you and charge you and prove fully that you're guilty, and there's no scroll written, there's no character letter that's written for you, that he was literally telling you how to write this character letter in your walk, then the justified judgment is that, yes, you would go to Hades. You guys see what I'm saying? Like, you can connect it so many ways with this court case, but ultimately I'm just trying to paint a very general picture of literally what this case is about. It's Matsema versus mankind. Matsema versus you. Let's continue. So Zephaniah asks for mercy because he knows that's literally the only thing he can get. He can ask for, because we're all born into sin, and it's justified already for us to go to hell. But you got your father as the judge, and you got the Mashiach as your lawyer, working together for the good of those who love him. Oh my goodness. So Zephaniah continues. He says that basically after he was given the mercy, basically, or he was told that he was going to cross over to the crossing place outside of the abyss, he says that he put on an angelic garment. Connect that straight to the Garden of Eden, right? In the sense of the garments that were changed, the fig tree, etc. So we already talked about that. And I saw all of those messengers praying. I myself prayed together with them, and I knew their language, which they spoke with me. So this is not Hebrew, okay? I'm going to read something about Hebrew later, Sarah, but we're talking about an angelic language. So this is going to be another study later down the line, but tongues, okay? There were tongues in the book of Acts. They were allowed to hear the tongues that were spoken through the Spirit, and they were interpreting it in their own language, okay? But tongues, it doesn't mean that it's put in a box only to be other languages, okay? True, the main basis of the tongues from heaven is a language that only the angels know, and that only the ones who who speak tongues, they speak of a heavenly language. That's what tongues should be called, is a heavenly language. And so there's something we're going to read from the Testament of Job that connects to this, but that's essentially what tongues are, is a heavenly language. That moment in Acts was a moment where people were able to interpret those tongues in their own language, because the Spirit can do that, right? So that's why you do see Paul talking about that there are some gifts that are given to some who can interpret tongues. Sometimes it's not going to be every single moment, right? But we can't put a cap on what happens in the Spirit. That's not for us to do, right? But we can understand a lot of aspects of what's going on, but the Spirit can do whatever the Spirit wants to do, that the Father and the Son have already designed it to be. And in that moment in Acts, when they heard those tongues, they were able to interpret it. But tongues essentially is a heavenly language, okay? And that's going to be somewhere down the line in the weapons of warfare, because I believe some of you guys may end up speaking tongues later down the line. I truly believe that if you haven't, and it's not to say that you have to. I'll give you guys my story on that a little bit later on down the line. But you guys see what's you see what's all in front of when we get to the weapons of warfare, because we got to get our mind and our heart and our spirit right to understand all these things before we get there, so we can actually utilize these weapons the right way in power. Anyway, so yes, going back to Zephaniah chapter 8. He says, I knew their language which they spoke with me. Now, moreover, my sons, this is a trial because it is necessary that the good and the evil be weighed in a balance. Then a great messenger came before me, having a golden trumpet in his hand. He blew it 3 times over my head. Be courageous, O one who has triumphed, who have won the court case. Prevail, O one who has prevailed, for you have triumphed over the accuser. So this is talking about the ones who actually win the case. You have triumphed. You have escaped from the abyss in Hades. You will now cross over the crossing place, for your name is written in the scroll of the living. Zephaniah says, I wanted to embrace him, but I was unable to embrace the great messenger because his glory is great. Then he ran. You guys, please listen to this. He ran to all the righteous ones, namely Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Enoch and Elijah and David. He spoke with them as a friend to friend, speaking with one another. So there's scripture that talks about the character of the people that we read in this book, in all this, different scriptures. And I mean, if you don't see literally right here staples of pillars of the Mashiach's character, different things that we are connecting. We've already talked about a lot of this stuff in the studies, fruits of wisdom. All this stuff is always leading up to literally us having this same, we're having this same result of the court case that these same people won. They won the case. Okay? It's the same thing as saying they won the race. Let me see here. Do I need to read anything else? I think that's about it. That's about it that we need to know in this portion. Okay? So that's from the Revelation of Zephaniah. Mark that as a bookmark. And I'll, obviously, you guys know, I'll post any other connections and things like that, of course, in the coming time. But super fire. Can't tell me that's not scripture, right? So, man. Now, some of y'all are like, oh my goodness. Like, I don't even know what else to say, but like just reading that, it's amazing. But it just really shows you like that this case, the accuser is prosecuting you, and the Mashiach literally has given us a whole way to win this case. And the judge is the Father. Oh my goodness. So chapter 54, verse 12 of 2nd Baruch. Okay, so it's some connections to those who cross over to win the case and those who don't. Okay, so 2nd Baruch chapter 54, starting at verse 12. It says, "For who doeth like unto your marvelous deeds, O Abba, or who comprehend your deep thought of life? For with your counsel you do govern all the creatures which your right hand, the Mashiach, has created, and you have established every fountain of light beside you." Remember, in Zephaniah, Revelation of Zephaniah, it says there is light where the righteous dwell. And it says, "And the treasures of wisdom beneath your throne have you prepared, and justly do they perish who have not loved your law, your Torah, your instruction, your wisdom, the Mashiach. And the torment of judgment shall await those who have not submitted themselves to your power." They have not submitted themselves to the way that you win this case. "For though Adam first sinned and brought untimely death upon all, yet of those who were born from him, each one of them has prepared for his own soul torment to come. And again, each one of them has chosen for himself glories to come. For assuredly he who believes will receive reward. But now as for you, you wicked that now are, turn you to destruction, because you shall speedily be visited, and that formerly you rejected the understanding of the Most High. For his works have not taught you, nor has the skill of his creation, which is at all times persuaded you. You guys, the luminaries is a skill that we're going to actually learn to actually understand what this is all about. Why do you think it says in scripture in Enoch that the path of the moon is what does it say, is righteous to those basically who understand, but it's wickedness for those who want to look at it in a certain type of way, right? It's not about having so much of this like projection of how Satan literally prosecutes and speaks the way he speaks, and is all these different portions of evil and error. That's what he's doing with the luminaries, but we're supposed to be looking at it in a total different way. And so that's why he says it's a skill of his creation, so we'll actually be able to understand how to utilize these different skills and our understanding and just connect with him through it. And that's what's coming. So right there, verse 19, it says, Adam is therefore not the cause, save only his own soul, but each of us has been the Adam of his own soul. Okay, so it's basically telling you just how Moses presented light and dark and life and death to Israel. It's the same thing. We have a choice. Sirach chapter 15 that we've read plenty of times says he doesn't give anyone license to sin. He doesn't give anyone a license to just lose this, to go into the court case and say, well, yeah, all these accusations against me are there, but at the end of the day, even if I don't have a character letter written, even if I don't have, anything written on my other scroll that should, that's going to help me get out of this case and win the case, it's all good. Like that's how people usually think when they think it's once saved, always saved. Like that's not how that works. I mean, if it's not super, super, super clear now, it don't work like that. But ultimately, we basically have life and death. Literally, even though we're born into sin, we have these choices. Yeah. So that was really connected, and then we got Second Esdras. Chapter 7. It says, and this one, you always think about chapter 7, is in the KJV, it doesn't have those scriptures that were omitted, which is basically what happens after death. But I'm just reading from the KJV real quick. It says in verse 19, he says, there is no judge above the Father, and none that hath understanding above the highest. For there will be many that perish in this life, because they despise the instructions of the Most High. They despise the Mashiach. They despise the Torah that is set before them. For the Most High has given commandments straight to such as came, and what they should do to live, even as they came, and what they should observe to avoid punishment. What they should observe and what they should do to win this case. Nevertheless, they were not obedient unto him, but spoke against him and imagined vain things. And they deceived themselves by their wicked deeds, and said of the Most High that he is not, and knew not his ways. But his Torah, the word that they have despised, they denied his covenants. In his statutes they have not been faithful, and have not performed his works. Therefore, Esdras, for the empty are empty things, and for the full are full things. The empty are empty things, and for the full are full things. So you guys, another preview of the luminaries. When we start out empty, right, you're being filled, but then the light can't overfill the moon continuously, so it's being renewed every single month, right? So when you're seeing that it says the empty are the empty things, if we started out empty, When the 10 virgins, when the 5 virgins who were foolish. Oh, good night, sister. Yeah, definitely. Definitely, sister. Have a good night. So when you see that we're not supposed to stay in the dark, and when we are presented to the Most High, we should have oil for our lamp. He is the lamp. We should have oil for the lamp. The Spirit should be flowing with more than just one work, if you want to say it that way. But we should have oil in our vessels so that when we are coming to Him, it should be full. We're going to be full of light, right? So that's why you would see things like the Feast of Trumpets on the 15th day. Okay? It's just a preview of what's to come. So we should be full of light, right? But he's saying, Esdras, the ones who stay in the dark are going to stay in the dark, but the ones who are full will be full. Okay? It's just some easy connections, you guys. Sometimes it's not always to see these things if you're in a certain mindset. But that's why we have to scrap our understanding, start fresh, right? To be able to say, okay, really, what did I miss? Repent, like scrap whatever you got going on, or, just different stuff. We have to refresh and renew and things like that because we are not perfect. We're not. And it's okay. We're not perfect. And that's, if His mercy is available for us, we better bathe in it. We have to bathe in His mercy. Man. So that was some connections to the court case. All right. What is next? What is next? You guys have any little comments? Not little comments. You guys know what I'm saying. Comments that you need to say real quick. And so this right here, just showing us again, Matsema. He's an accuser, shapeshifts, puppeteers, environment shifter, prince of the power of the air. I want to talk about that in the next study of Know Your Enemy. It's not going to come right after, but whenever that gets here, and then he's a destroyer, jealous, and envious. Okay, and so revelation of Elijah. Okay, so the time of the sinner. So we were talking about a little bit of the luminaries, but ultimately, the man of lawlessness, Matsema. You guys see that he used a serpent. So he's going to use this new man that's going to be on the stage, and he's literally the law of lawlessness. And through him, obviously, you can go read Revelation 13, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. And you see that there are going to be some works involved. He's going to heal. And this you will find in Revelation of Elijah as well. He's going to heal the sick. He's going to bring fire from the sky. And then the image of the beast is going to talk. It's like going to look like AI, basically. And that's another study in itself. But these things are going to happen. Okay, so like the spirit realm of things that he was doing in the spirit realm that obviously are clearly seen, but on a whole level that the world haven't seen, it's going to look like the Mashiach, right? It's going to look like he is the Mashiach. He's the savior of the world. And so in 2 Baruch chapter 48, 2 Baruch chapter 48. We're going to read a little bit of, let's see here, 29 through 43, I think. Okay, so it's going to give you a little bit more picture of what's happening around that time. Okay, so obviously Matsema has great influence in this time. Obviously he's already had influence, and his demons have had influence for a long time, but we're talking about getting up to the day of judgment. Okay, so it says, verse 29 says, "For this is as follows: He that is corrupted is not at all, but he has both wrought iniquity so far, and as lie cannot do anything." It says, in those days, verse 32, that all the inhabitants of the earth shall be moved one against the other, because they know that they don't know that the Most High's judgment has drawn nigh. For there shall not be found many wise at that time, and the intelligent shall be but a few. Moreover, even those who know shall most of all be silent. Okay, and the reason why we would be silent is because of the fact that when the man of lawlessness puts out the mark, right, it says you can't buy or sell. And basically, when you really put two and two together, you realize, like, whatever home you're in, especially if you're paying rent, even sometimes to the portion of owning land, and more than likely owning land, like they could rewrite anything, even if you're a trustee, right? My brother always talks about that. But that's one of the highest things to be in this as an owner, just generalizing it. But they'll even rewrite over that because of the fact that they are going to take everything. They're going to put everything under their feet. So, that's not saying don't try to be a trustee and et cetera, and have a trust. But you see, like, literally the wise will be silent because essentially we're not going to be able to be in public like that. Like, there's going to be a lot of things that's going to happen. And some will be hidden, so it's more of that we could probably cover at another time, but that's one of the reasons why the wise would be silent. Verse 34, it says, there shall be many rumors and tidings, not a few, and doing phantasms. Some of them will be humiliated. Some things will be destroyed, basically. They'll ask, basically, where's wisdom? So this is something for you guys to read for sure. 2 Baruch 48, 29-43. And it just gives you, like, more of an understanding of what you're actually going to also see during that time of the judgment coming. And we already see glimpses of this stuff. But in verse 40, he says, because each of the inhabitants of the earth knew when he was transgressing. But my law, my Torah, and my instructions, they knew not by reason of their pride. But many shall then assuredly weep, yes, over the living more than over the dead. And it says, Baruch says, and I answered and said, O Adam, what have you done to all those who are born from you? And what will be said to the first Eve who hearkened to the serpent? For all this multitude are going to corruption, nor is there any numbering of those whom the fire devours. Man. Okay, so this is also connected to the time of the sinners that Enoch speaks on. And the luminaries will for sure be changed because of the fact that Matsema will have been given power to execute his judgment, execute his desires, and that there's going to be a specific time that's given to be able to execute those different things. And that's what people will see, and that's why they'll give themselves over to the mark, to his mark. They'll give themselves over to losing the court case in its fullness. Let's see here. What is next, y'all? All right. So we have two more things, okay? Two more important things. So I'm not going to read this Testament of Job, but if you haven't heard of this, welcome to the Testament of Job. And this is a very fire book. So obviously we know of regular Job, the book of Job, but a lot of us haven't heard of the Testament of Job. Okay, and the Testament of Job, it will connect to some things that obviously are in the book of Job. But at the same time, it's even more. It's even more heat to eat on and to really really just enjoy. Okay, so I can only read a little bit of it. It has about, let me see here. 11 chapters of heat. Okay. And let's see. So basically, this is connected to obviously Matsema. It says that let's see. It basically tells us that Satan is an accuser, and he's also a seducer. Okay, and then in chapter 2, Satan actually disguises himself as a beggar and knocked heavily at the door of Job. So, like I showed you guys with Matsema, he's also a shapeshifter. There's a lot of demons that are shapeshifters, right? And he also made Eve and Adam look at the tree like it was really good to eat, like it was better than what it was. And Job, basically, essentially in this testament, he is enduring everything that has been going on and that's going to happen to him. And he says that, for I am ready to endure whatever you bring on me. And when the devil heard this, he left Job, and walking up to the under the highest heaven, he took from the Most High the oath that he might have power over all Job's possessions. And after having taken the power, he went and instantly took away all Job's wealth. Okay? So remember, in the book of Job, Satan accuses Job that he's not as faithful as the Most High paints him as. So through that, essentially was the Father saying, well, have you tried him yet? So that's why it says the devil took the oath, because the Most High allowed Satan to attack Job and to create a case against him. And so later on, it just keeps calling Satan a seducer, that he demanded warfare against Job. He was literally trying to take him out. And it says that literally Job was going through this affliction for several years. Okay, I don't know if it was like 5 years or so, but it was several years. So that even shows you, when we're reading, especially in the canon, you're not always going to get every single detail of like when something is taking place. So you do have to use more connections of scripture. So if it says Adam and Eve were in the garden, you could think, well, how long? And then you'll read in Jubilees chapter 3, it says for 7 years. And on that the day where it was completed of the 7th year, or that 7th year came, that's when Matsema came and basically pushed him out of the garden. And so in this other chapter 2, it says that Matsema was asking for a hair of the head of Job's wife. Because basically in this testament, you'll see that Job's wife had to work really hard because there was no riches. All their riches were gone. And she was working like heavy. And it's also because Job was struck, like his body was struck, so he couldn't do anything. So his wife took the load, and Satan came up to her and was like, let me help you. And he disguised himself as someone who was giving bread, because all she was working for was for food and things like that, right? So he asked her to cut off a piece of her hair, because basically he was connecting himself to that. And so some of you guys, if you know about voodoo and things like that, like literally it's straight up here, like where you see, from the fallen angels, when it talks about that they taught men the enchantments and the different things that are within the enchantments. That's where these different things come from, because they'll try to use different things like your hair, and it's so much you guys see, like that's connected to like even like the fingerprints, right? You gotta give blood. It's so much, you guys. It's just nuts to really see how deep this is going. But yeah, he asked for her hair, and he's like basically troubling her. Okay. What else? Let's see here. And so basically, as Job is constantly enduring, this is the conversation. So he says literally, he says to his wife, after his wife is like, can you just like curse the Most High in a sense? But Job says, behold, I have been plague stricken for 7 years, and I have withstood the worms of my body, and I was not weighed down in my soul by all these pains. And as to the word which you speak, you say, speak some word against the Most High and die. Together with you I will sustain the evil which you see, and let us endure the ruin of all that we have. Yet you desire that we should say some word against the Most High, that you should be exchanged for the great Pluto. Why do you not remember those great goods which we possessed? If these goods come from the lands of the Most High, should we not also endure evils and be high-minded in everything until the Most High will have mercy again and show pity to us? Do you not see that the seducer stands behind you and confounds your thoughts in order that you should deceive me? So again, the enemy is behind something to try to get him to lose this case, to try to get him to not endure the race. The enemy is behind something. He's behind the speech that is evil. He's behind the accusations. He's behind these things. He goes on to say, and he turned to Satan and said, why do you not come openly to me? Stop hiding yourself, you wretched one. Does the lion show his strength in the weasel cage, or does the bird fly in a basket? I now tell you, go away and wage your war against me. Then he went off from behind my wife and placed himself before me, crying. And he said, you guys, Matsema is crying. He was, okay, you guys remember, I posted something about it, but whatever. I always say that sometimes. I don't want to get into that way, like, oh, you got to, whatever. So, whether or not I posted it, you guys remember the Wizard of Oz, when that green face or whatever, like the Wizard of Oz was basically like scaring Dorothy and like the lion and the tin can and whoever else was with him. Even Tito was scared. Actually, Tito wasn't scared because later on Tito finds someone behind a curtain, and he pulls the curtain, and it's a person that's puppeteering the wizard that is on screen for them, what Dorothy and them are seeing as like scary and things like that, right? So Tito goes in and literally unveils Matsema. Essentially connecting to this, same thing, Matsema is unveiled. I'm sorry, he unveils the wizard, but I'm obviously connecting it to Matsema. So Job sees it spiritually, through his spiritual discernment, who is behind the attack that's coming against him, even through his wife. And he tells him, I see you, because I know who you are. I know my enemy. I wish there was like a little sound right there that just like, or not even that. That's a joke, but you guys know what I'm saying. Like, because that's the name of the title of the of the study. But he knows who his enemy is. Okay, so his enemy goes right before Job, and he says, "Behold, Job, I yield and I give away to you who are but flesh, but I am spirit. You are plague-stricken, but I am in great trouble, for I am like a wrestler, contesting with a wrestler who has, in single-handed combat, torn down his antagonist and covered him with dust and broken every limb of his. Whereas the other one who lies beneath, having displayed his bravery, gives forth sounds of triumph, testifying to his own superior excellence. Thus you, O Job, are beneath and stricken with plague and pain, and yet you have carried the victory in the wrestling match with me. And behold, I yield to you." You guys, I'm not making up words. I kid you not, I'm not making this up. It says, "Then he left me embarrassed. Now, my children, you must also show a firm heart in all the evil that happens to you. For firmness of heart is greater than all things." Oh my goodness. Mm-mm-mm-mm. It's fire. Let's see here. So I mean, it's some more things in here that's just amazing. I don't really want to read too much of it. It's just fire. It's really truly fire because you also will see some of the conversation that was in the Testament of Job. I mean, in the book of Job, but it's a little bit different here. And it's a different type of conversation you're not going to find in there. And ultimately, like later on, it says, the Most High is righteous and his judgments are true. With him there is no preference of person, for he judges all alike. Behold, the Mashiach comes. Behold, the holy ones have been prepared. The crowns and prizes of his victories precede them. Let the saints and let their hearts exult in gladness, for they will receive the glory which is in store for them. And in the chorus it says, this is a song, our sins are forgiven, our injustice has been cleansed, etc. So it's also obviously connecting straight to literally how we win the court case. And in this book, in this Testament of Job, when I was telling you guys about the tongues being a heavenly language, it also speaks on this because it's actually going to talk about Job's daughters that eventually, that he actually had later on, because his initial children were destroyed. But these Job's daughters specifically, you notice in the book of Job, it'll say like there were no other daughters like his in the land, and it doesn't give any more details on that, right? So in this Testament of Job, it actually will tell you why Job's daughters were different, because they were given heavenly things, and they were heavenly, like they were, you'll see. But part of their gifts that came from something that happens in here was that they're speaking the heavenly language. And yeah, so I probably will end up doing a study on this testament eventually, or just, but I definitely, you guys just go read it. For sure, read this. This is fire, Testament of Job. Okay, so ultimately what we're going to take from this for this study is that Job endured, and he was attacked. Matsema tried to destroy him, but he could not be destroyed because he stood in the firmness of his heart. And the things that are in his heart would be fear, wisdom, and righteousness. Wisdom and righteousness. And his character shows for itself who he resembled as, because also the Mashiach, which we're about to talk about, he came in our flesh so he can also be destroyed, and he triumphed. So the way that we win this court case has already been written from the beginning, literally. And that's what we're going to talk about really quick. At the end here is the Mashiach. Another book for you guys to read, or testament, is a testament of Isaac. So we got Revelation of Zephaniah, Testament of Job, and the Testament of Isaac now. Okay, so 3 fire things for y'all to read now that you more than likely may have never read before, and now you're just gonna have some more fun. So let me get to it real quick. This is the last portion, you guys. Trust me. And we didn't even have to take a restroom break. All right. So I'm only reading one passage from here because we're talking about basically at the end. We talked about this court case already, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what the Mashiach represents, right? So it says, so it says in chapter 4, okay? So it says, all of these experienced death except the perfect one, our father Enoch. After these 42 generations more will pass until Christ comes, born of a pure virgin Mary. He will spend 30 years preaching in the world. At the end of all this, he will choose 12 men and reveal to them his mysteries and teach them about the archetype of his body and his true blood by means of bread and wine. His true blood by means of bread and wine. That's why Melchizedek gave, they had that bread and wine with Abraham. But that's a whole nother connection you guys can draw to. And it says, and the bread will become the body of the Father, and the wine will become the blood of the Mashiach. Okay, so the bread will become the body of the Father, and the wine will become the blood of the Father, or the blood of Mashiach, basically. And that's what it represents. And he will, Michael said, we're about to end this soon, Mike. And then he will ascend the tree of the cross and die for the whole creation and rise on the third day and despoil Hades and deliver all mankind from the enemy. The generations to come will be saved by his body and by his blood until the end of time. Okay? And so it says here, I'm just reading how it speaks. The sacrifices of Christians will not cease until the end of time, whether offered secretly or openly. And we could connect that to chapter 35 of Sirach, where it talks about what the sacrifices mean now. Like our praise is like a ascending offering, praying, doing righteous deeds. Sirach really does a really good job on that chapter of connecting what the sacrifices are now for us. Blessed is every man who performs that service and believes in it, because the archetypal service is in the heavens, and they will celebrate with the Son of the Father in his kingdom. So what we are doing right now in our works, just as it talks about the heavenly, we're the royal priesthood. Why do you think the Levites were taken to himself within the tribe of Judah, or within the 12 tribes, that the whole Israel, out of all Israel, Levites were the royal priesthood. They were the priesthood. And so even when you read in the testament of Levi or Levi, you'll see that within him there were 3 types. Okay, I might actually be able to pull it up really quick, but there were 3 types of things that I might be able to pull it up really quick if I can find it. And it was prophecy, because that's what Levi was actually reading or actually seeing in that moment. Let's see here. Oh, do I see it? I don't think I'm gonna get to it, guys, if I can't find it. Yeah, probably won't be able to find it, but it's all good. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna research it here. Got my laptop. Come on, Rob. Just for the study, just to put it in there. Testament of Levi. We're almost done here, y'all. Okay, so chapter 1, and then it should be in chapter 3, I believe. They'll talk about the offices of Levi. So, in one of these it says, to Levi I have given thee the blessing of the priesthood until I come and sojourn in the midst of Israel. So we already know that's the Mashiach, because he was having a prophetic dream about, or a vision of what was going to happen. And let's see here. I'm just trying to look for the office, the 3 office. And so it's pretty cool too, that Levi in this dream, He's given the robe of the priesthood and the crown of righteousness and the breastplate of understanding and the garment of truth and the late of faith and the turban on his head and the ephod of prophecy. It's amazing. And he says, from henceforth become a priest to the of the Most High, from you and your seed forever. And he was anointed with holy oil. He was given the staff of judgment. They washed him with pure water and fed him bread and wine, even the most holy things, with a holy and glorious robe. They clothed him with a linen vestment like an ephod, and they put a girdle like unto purple, and gave him the branch of rich olive, and placed a crown on his head, and placed on his head the diadem of priesthood, filled his hands with incense that he might serve as a priest to the Most High. You guys, that's what we're supposed to be looking like in the spirit realm. And it says, and to Levi, your seed will be divided into 3 offices for a sign of the glory of the Most High to come, of the Mashiach to come. The first portion is great, and greater than it shall none be. The second is in the priesthood. And the third shall be called by a new name, because a king shall rise in Judah, and shall establish a new priesthood after the fashion of the Gentiles. Okay? So, amazing stuff. And so when you read the Testament of Isaac, like we just read, it says that like these things that we're doing as far as the sacrifices, like in Sirach 35, it's an archetypal service in the heavens that connects directly to the priesthood. Okay, it's for what is to come. So that's why it says in the end that we will be priests unto the Most High, priests into the Most High. And so in Hebrew, and this is what the enemy knows. This is why he wants to win this court case against us. Because in Hebrews chapter 1 and 2, you'll see the line of how the Mashiach comes, right? And so it says in chapter 2 that he was made a little lower than angels. Or chapter 1, he was made a little bit lower than angels. He came in our flesh, and he did what he did. And he rose from the belly of Sheol, and he defeats death. He wins that court case for every single person. Now, the way to win the case was already there. He already paved the way. But when he did this, he tore the veil, and it was like fully in its completedness to win the race, to win the case, right? And so to fully not be a criminal again, because what happens in this walk, in life, remember, even if you win a case, or let's just say if you used to be a criminal, like that past still stays with you. It still kind of, it affects how you can get a job. These things still weigh on you. It don't just fall off after 7 years like credit, the things that put on it. But even just like credit, like the Satan has put things on us to essentially build his case against us and accuse us of different things. We're not stewarding things correctly or whatever. So even things like debt, it's called usury. Those things were also spoke of the Father. So that's why he never wanted people to put interest on things and hold something over a man for them to say like, oh, well, you owe me money and you gotta hold this against me. There's a lot that the Most High has covered that we don't talk about a lot, right? So going back to the Mashiach coming in our body, he did that for obviously perfect reasons that we understand a lot more now to win this case. But after we win it, what we're doing is we're like the ones who are going to heed his law and his instructions are trying to walk in perfectness in him, right? So they don't become a criminal. So then when you're judged as righteous on your day of judgment fully, that you are going to be brought to the 8th day. You're going to be brought to the 8th day, okay? And this is for our future, why I'm saying this, because what's coming, you guys will fully understand all these things, because it's amazing, if you don't understand it already. So we are essentially, if Mashiach was brought lower than the angels, coming into our flesh, he rises from Sheol like no other angel has ever done and will ever be able to do. That he now obviously sits on the right hand of his Father. He is in an exalted state above all angels, right? So he goes from a high place where he was already when he created all things. He goes to a low place in us, still does this walk perfectly, and then is exalted above all, and he's the Alpha and the Omega. So through him, we will essentially, literally, not even essentially, but we will literally be higher than the angels. And that's why you go back to Matsema and why he's so jealous and envious and wants to destroy us, because he saw himself as perfect and said, how can you make these imperfect people more perfect than me? How can you do that? Anyone in the evil mindset will say, well, yeah, he got a point, but no, because he was a covering sheriff. He had his job. And he didn't want to stay in his estate, his first estate, and therefore he wanted everything that the Father had, because he's like, well, you're not giving me enough. So I'm going to take what I think I should have. And the Most High said, you're right, get out of here. And so he tells the serpent, why are you eating? And remember we read in the Greek life of Adam and Eve, he tells the serpent, why are you eating the lesser things of Adam? You should be on the same level as him. When literally the Most High made man above all things on this earth. For a reason. It was for a shadow of the things to come, because we will be, once we get our heavenly body, we will literally be above the angels. And that's not a competition thing at all. It's not at all. It's literally the angels, the ones who are righteous in him, know what this is all about. We all will be in the same place when it's all consummated. The time is consummated. And that's the beautiful thing about the 1,000-year reign. So Mashiach comes, and then we got 1,000 years to get to that 8th day. So it's like perfection. He's perfecting things right before everything is fully perfected. From 7 to 8. Right? So same thing with creation. 7 days, the 8th day. Right? So just a preview, y'all. But 2nd Baruch chapter 51, it will also tell you that our bodies, it's a whole beautiful thing about like our new heavenly bodies. So I won't have to read all of that. I've read it before in another study, but please go check that out. But it's glorious. It's just glorious. And we're like royal priesthood. We're going to be ruling in that 1,000-year reign. The people who are still alive, that he's going to allow to stay alive from all that judgment going on, he's going to allow who were regular humans that he had pity on still in the midst of that to live in the 1,000-year reign with him on earth. And we'll still be in our heavenly bodies, literally like angels, but higher than angels. And so from the beginning of all this, the Most High knew, creating man, what our nature is. There's a scripture I couldn't find that I was bothered about. I couldn't find it. But basically, he knew who he was creating. And he knew that the end of man, because of their desire for wisdom, you see what happens with Eve and Adam. But he still made a way for us to win this court case, ultimately. He still set us up with choices, right? And so he's telling us, showing us where our heart truly needs to be, in righteousness, wisdom, and fear, and growing in it to the fullest in this walk, so that way we can win this court case, and then we're going to be judged as righteous if we win it. And Satan knows that. So if you know your enemy, you know the things that we are up against, the things that are happening in your life, the things that are happening in our mind. Even like my kids and I, they've been having a little tough week, a little bit more whiny than usual and things like that. And it's tough. And the Most High knows, like, even something like that, like the enemy can easily try to trigger something in your mind, trigger something in your heart, just even from your own children or your wife or your husband, your co-workers, like, because you see he's literally trying to always be behind the scene, right? But it's the same thing. Job was like, I see you, right? Abraham in the book of Jasher, when Matsema was trying to hinder him and Isaac from going up to that high place, right, to do what the Most High wanted them to do, Matsema tried everything. He disrupted the environment. He changed himself into he shapeshifted, right? Tried to get them off track, and Abraham said, "I see you. I know who you are," and he binded and rebuked him, and Satan ran away. He ran away. And so that's something for us to understand, because the only way he runs away is because we have the power in the Mashiach to bind all things. Whatever you loose in heaven, you loose on earth, right? So it's like we have this power, but it's not really seen a lot, because we if we don't take it for exactly the beautiful and the power that it is, a lot of us aren't going to really reach to where we should reach. And that's just flat out why we doing these studies. You guys see the progress of what has been going on, but now it's like a whole new level. It's a whole new level now, for what's coming. So you guys are going to enjoy, like, every little thing is just going to fire you up, because all of this stuff is it's so key. It's so key to know, like, why we are walking, and you guys will see it literally, as you already saw in this study. It is a salvation issue. And we don't know that we're in this case. People will not truly walk in righteousness, in fear, and wisdom as we really, really, really have to. Because we are writing a character letter that we need the judge to read, and it should look just like his son. It should look like portions of Abraham, portions of Enoch, portions of Job, portions of these men and women, Judith, like, that have literally excelled and won this case. So that's it, you guys. That's the end of this study, and I hope you truly enjoyed it. You guys know, always very detailed on these things, and it's very important to do so, no matter how long it takes. For me, it's nothing as far as the time frame is concerned, so never an issue. I think we literally just got 2 minutes past 3 hour mark. 3 hours of heat. That's worth it, because it's about our salvation. So please go restudy these things. If you need any screenshots from the study, any study, just always ask me. Any notes that you need, or something that you wanted to talk about, or whatever the case is, my DMs are always open until I say that they're closed, because I'm taking time away or something like that, which is pretty much coming up soon. Take some time off of this here to prepare for what more is coming, but like literally, like this is like that ready, set, go type of or that ready and set type of study, and then once literally this next study comes up, it's literally go. So I hope you guys understood that. Like, it's literally go from this next study that's coming. It sets up everything, and it just keeps going. It's going to be super fire for us to really walk in this truth. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll go ahead and pray out and go ahead and end this. So, dear Abba, we thank you just for the study, for just revealing all this understanding, this information, this wisdom that you're giving to your people. I ask that you just break the strongholds in people's minds that are still against certain things that are so clear in your word, and just through your patience, through your understanding, through the way that you know how to guide others, and whether it's just through your laborers, and obviously through your spirit in both in both your labors and the moving of the Spirit, doing what the Spirit does, that in your timing, that you're breaking strongholds, you're breaking false doctrine, you're destroying these things that are not of you. And I ask that in the midst of those breakings of strongholds, and when you present yourself or present an opportunity for those to truly humble themselves and be meek, that you are giving them an understanding of the heart issue that's involved, and that they have to let go of the things that the accuser is using to accuse us of, whether it's arrogance, pride, all manners of sin that he's using against us and holding against us for that day of judgment that is final when it's judged. So I ask that you just help us continue to understand that, especially for those who are against offense, against the things that wisdom continues to show us. And I pray for your wives who are fighting hard and are striving hard, that you continue to bless us with more understanding, more fear, more righteousness, more wisdom, and continue to help us walk perfect in you, so that you may read our character letter and truly see how we resemble your Son, who is the high priest, who is the highest, who is the Alpha and the Omega, that we may resemble him in all that we do, in our thoughts, in our heart, in our mindset, in our body, the way we take care of our tabernacle, our temple. Just please continue to guide us, discipline us, and allow us to truly make our election sure in you with fear and trembling. And we pray for those who are new and trying to find understanding, help them as well, guide them, and continue to allow these studies to reach others who need it, Abba, and I ask that you never allow me to pass any certain point of arrogance, that this is not about building followers or anything of that nature, Abba, that you bless me to understand that fully, but that also the people who watch these studies glorify you ultimately, and that their ears are inclined to what you have to say in your word. And we just pray for the world, the people that are in it, even for the enemies or people who are in decline, if you would say, that are perishing. We pray that you have mercy, in your mercy, that even if it's one or two, whatever, how many people that you're out there saving, we just pray for those people as well. And we pray for the children, the youth. In the name of your Son, Mashiach Yahshua, we pray. Amen. I don't know when that thing came up, but it's all good, y'all. I don't know when I froze, but it's all good. So I will see you guys in the next study. Shalom, shalom.